Chapter 1005. Rebirth. Chapter 1102. Rebirth, Reverse Ancestor. Who would have thought that the world would change? You and I were born lowly, and in just 1,000 years we have come this far. It really isn't easy. On the mountain peak, 2 youths were playing chess. One of them was dressed in Confucian robes and held a folding fan. Naturally, he had the aura of a leader, dominating the universe and swallowing the mountains and rivers. The other was dressed in hemp clothes and straw shoes. He held a bamboo stick with a yellow gourd hanging on it. He looked really carefree, as if nothing in the world could affect his freedom. Of these 2, the domineering one was Destiny Ancestor Lin Fan, and the carefree one was Reverse Ancestor Xiachen. As the 2 played, the black and white characters intertwined, killing each other. The battle was intense, and it seemed like it would start at any moment. All of a sudden, Life Ancestor Lin Fan flicked the chessboard. He wasn't prepared to continue fighting. Reverse Ancestor, we can't fight. Although the 2 of us stand at the peak of the human world, we are not invincible. There are still your enemies, Emperor Heaven, Nihility Ancestor, and Human Ancestor. They are all eyeing us, and other than that, our biggest enemy, Devouring Ancestor, is always thinking about devouring us. Reverse Ancestor, you are used to being carefree and not willing to build a kingdom in the human world. But this is the best chance and the best cultivation. How about this, you help me build a fate kingdom, and I will confer you the title of Reverse Ancestor. You will stand side by side with me, and we will be emperors. How about that? You just have to be the country guardian ancestor and not show yourself. How about that? Destiny Ancestor Lin Fan said. That still isn't right. Reverse Ancestor Xiachen said, as long as I am conferred the title and receive faith, there will be karma involved. If others attack the Fate Kingdom, I will definitely have to take action. In the long run, I will be dragged into trouble and won't be able to relax. That's not right, not right. Even if you don't get involved, if Fa Wuxian were to find you, for example, the ancestor devouring Fa Wuxian, he wouldn't let you off. You can't just hide all the time, right? You have to know that with the powers of the ancestor devouring, no matter where you hide, he would find you. Life Ancestor Lin Fan said, why don't we work together and kill Fa Wuxian first? Fa Wuxian is a madman. He calls himself the Ancestor Devourer, but it's actually the same as the Devil Dao, devouring everything. Reverse Ancestor Xiachen said, however, Fa Wuxian is even more demonic than a demon. He has used the Dao of devouring to the extreme. Tell me, how can we kill him? This person comes and goes like a shadow, and he doesn't have a territory, just like a roving bandit. Indeed, with the 2 of us we can suppress him, but we can't kill him. That's why we need to borrow his strength. Destiny Ancestor Lin Fan said, either one of us can stand on equal footing with Fa Wuxian. If we work together, we can beat him, but we won't be able to kill him. That's true. Reverse Ancestor Xiachen nodded. However, the number 1 expert in this world is said to be Gu Chensha. Fa Wuxian is determined to kill him, because Fa Wuxian's cultivation was crippled by him. But Fa Wuxian is so arrogant, isn't he afraid that Gu Chensha will cripple him again? Actually, I don't believe that Gu Chensha is the number 1 expert, because after all these years, he seems to have disappeared without a trace. Destiny Ancestor Lin Fan said, moreover, I think this Gu Chensha's deeds are mostly made up. There are even people saying that the entire human world is his testing ground, and we are all his test subjects. He built the human world, expanded it, and did it for the sake of doing experiments. You and I both know how huge the human world is, how majestic it is. In front of the human world, our strength is actually insignificant, not worth mentioning. But in front of Gu Chensha, the human world is a small puddle that he can create at will? That's too inconceivable. It's like the human world is the ocean, and we are the fish in the ocean. But the ocean of the human world is a footprint that Gu Chunxia casually made. Isn't the difference too big? I've studied the Dragonless Heart Sutra, and it is indeed very mysterious, but it doesn't seem to be able to break through everything. If I have the chance, I would like to meet this Gu Chunxia, and see what kind of person he is in the legends. Actually, I'm also skeptical. Reverse Ancestor Xiachen said, I've also heard the legend that Emperor Heaven once fought with Gu Chunxia, and Gu Chunxia couldn't do anything. Think about it, it can be seen that Gu Chunxia is actually not as strong as the rumors say, right? I killed the son of destiny chosen by Emperor Heaven himself, the Emperor of Qi country. I also sensed Emperor Heaven's power. Emperor Heaven is just a bit stronger than us, but it's not like we can't catch up. Based on this, Emperor Heaven and Gu Chunxia are actually on par. That makes sense. Destiny Ancestor Lin Fan nodded. Let's discuss how to deal with Fa Wuxian and kill him. Do you really want to see me? Just as the two of them sat down to discuss, a voice suddenly rang out, and Gu Chunxia appeared in front of them. Who are you? The two great ancestors said at the same time. With their cultivation, someone had approached them without them noticing, and they had only noticed when the other party spoke. This was no small matter. I am Gu Chunxia. Gu Chunxia pointed, and a seat appeared on the mountain. After sitting on it, he slowly spoke. Seeing this, the two of them were shocked, because this mountain was actually enveloped by their world force. Even if it was someone stronger than the two of them, they would not be able to move it in the slightest. Otherwise, they would be agitated by the two of them and die without a burial. And now, Gu Chunxia had casually created something in their world, causing their world to no longer be a world. Instead, it had become someone else's world. Next, the two of them secretly activated their celestial realm's ageless power, wanting to defend against it. However, they found that they had no ability at all. Don't struggle. Your heaven realm and all divine abilities are in my hands. Now you are ordinary people. Gu Chunxia flipped his palm, and two golden orbs appeared in his palm. These two golden orbs were the heaven realm that Destiny Ancestor Lin Fan and Reverse Ancestor Xia Chen had bitterly cultivated. Our power, our heaven realm. The two of them were extremely terrified. They were the main characters of this era, and they had unparalleled luck. They had never been in such a difficult situation, and their cultivation had been so easily taken away. This caused them to return to their original state. At that moment they really could not feel any power at all. Return to the past. Gu Chunxia flicked. Immediately, the scene changed, and the two of them seemed to have fallen into an endless cycle of reincarnation. Rumble. Reverse Ancestor Xia Chen opened his eyes, and realized that he was lying on a broken bed. Suddenly, someone ran in. Not good, Xia Chen, not good, your fiancé has been taken away. Hurry and report it to the authorities. What? Xia Chen scrambled to his feet and blurted out, I'm going now. Who is it? How bold. I want to go to the authorities. But then he woke up, what is going on? Am I not the reverse ancestor? I reached the heaven realm, and killed the emperor of Qi country. I am the reverse ancestor. 1,000 years ago, my fiancé was taken away by someone from the palace. I thought it was a robber, so I reported it to the authorities. But the authorities knew about it long ago, so they slandered me and beat me half to death. This hatred can't be erased? Why am I here? Have I been reborn? No. It's that Gu Chunxia. Gu Chunxia helped me be reborn. Xia Chen revolved his cultivation technique, only to realize that it was all gone. He had become a normal person. No, I need to cultivate back quickly. I still have my memories and experience. If I am reborn, I can still find my own fortuitous encounter. My first fortuitous encounter was in a dry well. I was beaten half to death by the authorities, and after I was thrown out, I was disheartened and wanted to jump into the well to commit suicide. But in a dry well outside the city, I had a fortuitous encounter. That fortuitous encounter was the profound Sky 9 divine pill, yin-yang limitless technique, 7 parting fire reverse sword, immortal tune true dragon wine, sun moon ghost blade, and a wordless sutra. Now, I'm going to the dry well. Thinking about it, Xia Chen ran out. He didn't go to the authorities, but to the dry well outside the city, and jumped in. Indeed, in the dry well, he seemed to have triggered some kind of opportunity, and fell into an unknown space. In the depths of this space, there were many treasures, cultivation techniques, and pills. So real, too real. This isn't fake, I've been reborn. Why is this happening? I've really been reborn. Xia Chen had obtained the fortuitous encounter he was supposed to have, but he didn't feel happy at all. Instead, he was deeply depressed. He had reached the heaven realm, and had become a reverse ancestor. Now, he had to start all over again. How much more pain and torture would he have to go through to reach his original realm? Gu Chensha, you knocked me into the reincarnation cycle and made me reborn. I won't let you go. In this life, I will become stronger, I will. In the dry well, Xia Chen roared, but suddenly, his roar stopped. No, even if I reach my original realm, I won't be a match for Gu Chensha. He knocked me into the reincarnation cycle with a flick of his finger. Even if I become 100 times stronger, or 1,000 times stronger, I won't be able to defeat him. I feel despair at his strength. Why did he knock me into the reincarnation cycle? Xia Chen was unwilling to accept this. He was deeply unwilling. He kept thinking and thinking. That's right, Dragonless Heart Sutra, Dragonless Heart Sutra. Dragonless Heart Sutra was created by Gu Chensha. I happened to have studied it before. Maybe the way to defeat Gu Chensha is the Dragonless Heart Sutra. As the saying goes, pay someone back in their own coin. From the Dragonless Heart Sutra, I might be able to comprehend the reason why Gu Chensha is so strong. Only by understanding him can I deal with him in the future. Thinking about this, he started to comprehend the Dragonless Heart Sutra in the dry well. With the cultivation and experience of his previous life, and the emotional fluctuations and comprehension after his rebirth, he had a deeper understanding of the Dragonless Heart Sutra. Chapter 1006. Playing Casually Playing Casually, Dragonless Heart Sutra, Mysterious Profound, Ghost God Transformation, Only I Am Freedom. Reverse Ancestor Xia Chen began his own cultivation. Gradually, the Dragonless Heart Sutra's profound kept revolving in his body. Rings of light appeared on top of his head. These rings of light flickered, containing a very profound cultivation. Dragonless Heart Sutra is actually so mysterious? It's really tyrannical. Xia Chen couldn't believe it. With just a bit of cultivation, the purity of the power in his body was far higher than when he had his fortuitous encounter. Cut off karma, cut off all living things, I am invincible, there is no me in the world. Xia Chen revolved again. Many changes were born in his body. Waves of power gushed out from the depths of his heart like a fountain. He didn't need to absorb the power of the human world. Instead, an endless amount of divine power was born from the depths of his heart. This divine power not only filled his body, but also overflowed and began to change the surrounding environment. In short, the change after he cultivated the Dragonless Heart Sutra was that he didn't need to absorb any energy from the outside world. Instead, the energy gushed out from his body, making the outside world richer. Soon, the dry well he was in was dyed by his power. Flowers bloomed and turned into a magnificent scene. As for those fortuitous encounter treasures, Mysterious Sky 9 Divine Pill, Yin-Yang Limitless Technique, 7 Fire Reverse Sword, Immortal Tune True Dragon Wine, Sun Moon Ghost God Blade and Wordless Sutra, he didn't take any of them. Now I know the profoundness of the Dragonless Heart Sutra. These treasures are actually not worth mentioning in front of the Dragonless Heart Sutra. Treasures are actually external powers. The Dragonless Heart Sutra fully develops the divine power from the depths of one's heart. This is true power. I finally know why Gu Chunsha is so tyrannical, Xia Chen said fiercely. He let out a long roar in the dry well. In this rebirth I will surpass my previous life. Gu Chunsha, you sent me into reincarnation and let me be reborn. This is nothing. As long as I don't die, you will die. As soon as he finished speaking, the scenery around him suddenly changed. He found himself back on the mountain peak. In front of him was still the chessboard. His heaven realm power had also returned to his body. He was still the reverse ancestor. The rebirth just now was like a dream. Gu Chunsha was still sitting in front of him, looking at him with a faint smile. At the same time, Destiny Ancestor Lin Fan appeared, recovering his strength. Clearly, he had the same experience as Xia Chen. He had been reborn and returned. Reverse Ancestor Xia Chen's expression changed when he saw that Destiny Ancestor Lin Fan hadn't woken up, but had materialized from spacetime instead. He knew that everything that had just happened wasn't an illusion. It was real. Gu Chunsha had really sent them to the past. With their strength, they were still unable to return to the past. If it was the heaven realm within their bodies, they would have the ability to reverse the flow of time. However, the human realm was too strong. The power of time and space was almost indestructible and irresistible. They did not have the power to return to the human realm. Even if they were thousands of times stronger, they would not be able to do that. They were like a small fish in a long river, only able to follow the flow. They could not reverse the flow of the river, nor could they go upstream. However, Gu Chunsha could easily do that. You're actually so strong. With your current cultivation, you can probably kill Emperor of Heaven with a flick of your finger. Why aren't you attacking? Reverse Ancestor Xia Chen said with a trembling voice. Why would I want to kill Emperor of Heaven? A giant fruit grew out of the tree you planted. Are you going to pluck it and throw it away? Gu Chunsha smiled. Did we really just rebirth? Destiny Ancestor Lin Fan's voice was also trembling. It was as if a chill had appeared in the depths of his heart. I've returned your cultivation. Do you think it's an illusion or rebirth? Gu Chunsha asked. With your cultivation, it shouldn't be hard for you to understand. We have indeed been reborn, Destiny Ancestor. Reverse Ancestor Xia Chen said. You can see that the timeline is completely distorted. If it was an illusion, we wouldn't be able to see it so clearly. In other words, Gu Chunsha, you can instantly make the entire human realm return to 1,000 years ago? In front of you, the human world is like a toy that you can control as you please? Fate Ancestor Lin Fan was completely terrified. You can say that I can change the human world at will. Everyone's cultivation base, including the celestial emperors, I can make them lose their cultivation base in an instant, become ordinary people, and then be reborn again. In any case, as long as it's my idea, I can turn it into reality. Gu Chunsha said, This is the realm of doing as one pleases. What do you think? I've reborn you to 1,000 years ago. When you were just starting to make a name for yourselves, I didn't think that you would think of the Dragonless Heart Sutra at the same time. In this way, you can be said to be on the right path. What do you want? Destiny Ancestor Lin Fan and Reverse Ancestor Xia Chen asked. It's very simple. I want you to comprehend the Dragonless Heart Sutra. You won't need to steal any vitality. Instead, you'll provide vitality to heaven and earth. Gu Chunsha said. Think about it. If all living beings learn the Dragonless Heart Sutra and comprehend the supreme secret of self-sufficiency, they won't need to absorb anything from the human realm. Instead, they'll feed it back to the human realm. What will the entire world look like? What's in it for you? Destiny Ancestor Lin Fan and Reverse Ancestor Xia Chen weren't moved by Gu Chunsha. When they were sent into reincarnation and reborn, they swore to deal with Gu Chunsha. Therefore, even after coming out of reincarnation, they still had a great deal of hatred for Gu Chernsha. But Gu Chernsha didn't care about this. I don't need any benefits. Moreover, the entire universe is changing. It's me who is changing. Gu Chernsha said, all of you still hate me in your hearts. I can see that all of you think that you are the main characters of this great world. In the deepest part of your souls there is a spirit of supremacy. However, when you see that my cultivation far surpasses yours, you are filled with jealousy and want to replace me. Everyone has this mentality, and there is nothing wrong with it, because in these 1,000 years, your fate energy has always been flourishing, and you are almost invincible. You have developed this kind of thinking that you are the only main character. This is also what I did on purpose. In the near future, I'll establish a dynasty. You'll all become my subjects. I'll clean up the human realm and let most of the living beings comprehend the Dragonless Heart Sutra as soon as possible. They'll become self-sufficient and give back to heaven and earth. You want to establish a dynasty? If we don't accept it, will you kill us? Destiny Ancestor Lin Fan and Reverse Ancestor Xia Chen were shocked. You'll accept it, Gu Chernsha said. If you don't accept it, I'll change your hearts. I hope you understand what's at stake. Don't force me to do anything. As he spoke, Gu Chernsha vanished from sight. Looking at the place where Gu Chernsha disappeared, the chair was still there. The two of them combined their powers and poured all of their power into the chair. But the chair didn't budge. It couldn't be destroyed at all. What? Even the chair he created can't be destroyed? The two of them finally realized that Gu Chernsha was toying with them like they were ants. Xia Chen, how can there be such a strong person in the world? Destiny Ancestor Lin Fan seemed to have lost all of his confidence and power. If Gu Chernsha and the Emperor of Heaven were about the same level, we would have the confidence to beat him. But the way I see it, the Emperor of Heaven is like an ant in front of Gu Chernsha. We're just a bunch of ants. We're just a little bit bigger. Reverse Ancestor Xia Chen's heart was filled with an unwillingness to accept this. I can't accept this. I can't accept this. We're all humans. Why is he so strong and we're just ants? One day I'll reach his level, and maybe even defeat him. If he can reach his level, that means we can too. We're all humans, and the Dragonless Heart technique says that once you reach the pinnacle, there will be no difference between life and death. That's right. We do have hope of reaching that level. Destiny Ancestor Lin Fan added. Actually, we've benefited from this as well. Our horizons have been broadened, and we've all gained enlightenment on the Dragonless Heart technique. Don't you feel like the power of the Deathless has become purer? Originally, with the two of us working together, we could suppress Fa Wuxian, but we couldn't kill him. But it's different now. After gaining enlightenment on the Dragonless Heart technique, we can create trap. Trap him, enter it, and kill him directly. From this, it can be seen that Gu Chernsha is actually rearing pigs. Xia Chen said. Once this pig is reared, we can make Fa Wuxian suffer the consequences of his actions. Then are we going to kill Fa Wuxian or not? Destiny Ancestor Lin Fan asked. Kill? Why not? Xia Chen smiled coldly. Gu Chernsha has given us such a good opportunity. If we don't kill Fa Wuxian, we'll be letting down his nurturing. Then shall we start planning now? You and I will work together? Destiny Ancestor Lin Fan said. Right now, Xia Chen, it's impossible for you to live a carefree life. We have to struggle, fight, and do everything we can to raise our strength and realm. Because the entire human world, heaven and earth, space, time, past, present, and future are all Gu Chernsha's testing ground. We want to leave this testing ground. We have to work hard. Indeed, I need to change my mindset. I can't live a carefree life anymore. Reverse Ancestor Xia Chen said. Let's go, we'll work together to find Fa Wuxian. Right now, he doesn't have any help from any faction. He's a lone wolf. If we kill him, there'll be more people coming to beat us up. The two of them flashed and disappeared. At this moment, even the heavens and earth were trembling non-stop. In a certain secret place in the human world, Fa Wuxian was also cultivating. A ball of devouring power revolved and formed some sort of door. What a terrifying existence. Right now, Gu Chensha is plotting against you. We can work together. Fa Wuxian was actually communicating with that terrifying existence. Chapter 1007. Chapter 1004. Using you as an example. Chapter 1004. Using you as an example. Right now, I'm still not a match for Gu Chensha. But the only thing Gu Chensha is wary of is that terrifying existence. I can make use of this opportunity to obtain some benefit. Although this is akin to asking a tiger for its skin, this is the only method I have now. Fa Wuxian was trying to communicate with that terrifying existence. Any expert would try their best to avoid that terrifying existence. However, Fa Wuxian was extremely daring, wanting to work together with that terrifying existence to gain strength to deal with Gu Chensha. His guts couldn't even be described with the word daring. In front of him, the devouring power transformed into a gate of devouring. Inside, there were countless black holes, white holes, chaos holes, origin holes, divine holes, true holes, wormholes, and so on, forming one concentric circle after another. These concentric circles wriggled together, resonating with each other, transmitting a mysterious energy to the outside of the cosmos, communicating with the will of that terrifying existence. What a terrifying existence! Right now, Gu Chensha can already pose a threat to you. In the river of fate he created, even your fate has been captured. From this, it can be seen how greedy he is towards you. Fa Wuxian's will flickered unceasingly. He had to communicate with that terrifying existence no matter what. You little thing that's even more evil than a devil. You actually dare to communicate with me directly? After a few days and nights, an extremely ferocious will descended, appearing within the gate of devouring. What appeared was a human face. This face was actually the face of the heavenly talisman emperor, Gu Taxian. However, the expression and aura on the face were worlds apart from Gu Taxian. Are you Gu Taxian? Fa Wuxian felt trepidation in his heart. I've already devoured Gu Taxian, including the heavenly Tao. I'm a brand new existence. You evil little thing, devouring the will of the ancient past suits my appetite. I can hear your call. Tell me, what are your plans? The terrifying existence spoke. I know that you will have to fight against Gu Chensha in the end. Fa Wuxian swallowed his saliva. Furthermore, you don't have the confidence to defeat him. That's why you need to set up a trap and disrupt his plan. Right now, Gu Chensha has injected his power into the human world and started a grand scheme to capture you. If you can give me your power, I can help you destroy Gu Chensha's plan. Gu Chensha? The terrifying existence laughed cruelly. He's just a rat, scurrying here and there. As long as I come out, I'll be able to kill him. All his plans are useless in the face of absolute power. He's just playing house here. On the other hand, Fa Wuxian, how dare you communicate with me? Aren't you afraid that I'll invade your body? Ha ha ha! Fa Wuxian laughed loudly. If you don't show yourself, I actually think that you can deal with Gu Chensha. But if you show yourself, it means that you want me to destroy Gu Chensha's plan, right? If you really have the power to destroy everything, you don't need to talk here. You don't have the time to talk to me. So, you don't need to bluff here. Is that so? The terrifying existence's murderous aura appeared. You little thing, you dare to talk to me like that? Looks like you want to die. Don't attack me because it's useless. I've analyzed the will you left behind. Now, it's been refined by Zhang Ziren. Also, the will you left in the Hongling sand is gradually being distorted by her dragonless mental cultivation technique. So, the dragonless mental cultivation technique can still suppress you. Although I've cultivated the path of devouring, I've also started to comprehend the dragonless mental cultivation technique. I'm going to use this path to kill Gu Chunxia and let him suffer the consequences of his actions. Fa Wuxian's path of devouring suddenly changed and started to transform into the dragonless mental cultivation technique. Damn Gu Chunxia, damn the dragonless mental cultivation technique. The terrifying existence roared. You haven't reached immortal level 9 yet. You've only transformed half of it. So, you can still be suppressed by the dragonless mental cultivation technique. When you fully transform it, the dragonless mental cultivation technique won't be able to suppress you anymore. So, you're not invincible yet. Fa Wuxian said confidently. But you should know that Gu Chunxia is also planning to cultivate to immortal level 9. Once he succeeds, I'm afraid your life will be very difficult. Little thing, as you wish. Don't you want power? The terrifying existence suddenly calmed down. I'll give you power. I'll let your immortal quality reach between immortal and immortal. In other words, half-step immortal. I believe that with this power, you can cause a lot of trouble for Gu Chunxia. Follow my will, devour everything. Buzz buzz, countless powers surged over, and streams of power continued to condense, causing Fa Wuxian's devouring power to transform from immortal to indestructible. Originally, the power of immortality was pure gold, representing true eternity. But now, this pure gold power was actually starting to turn pitch black. This kind of pitch black wasn't ordinary pitch black, it was deep, a black of nothingness. It could be said that it wasn't black at all. There was no color in the world that could describe it, it was just black to the senses. This was the power of immortal. Of course, it was only half-step immortal. Transformation successful. As Fa Wuxian's power rose, the terrifying face sneered. It was full of schemes and plots, and then disappeared. After a long moment, Fa Wuxian recovered, then looked at his power and laughed uproariously. I can't believe I've reached the half-annulled imperishable level. Apparently, that thing is so afraid of Gu Chunxia that it gave me such power. Of course, it's not like it's going to be that easy to control me. With this thing's help, I'm already in the half-annulled imperishable level. Not even Zhang Ziren, the Heavenly Emperor, or Guaxia could do anything to me. And Gu Chunxia is at this level. Gu Chunxia definitely hasn't reached the immortal level, but I'm very likely to. Of course, I'll need to accumulate enough resources to devour Emperor of Heaven, Gu Huaxia and Zhang Ziren. Then I'll devour all of the ancestors and finally the human world, Gu Chunxia and this terrifying thing. In the end, I'll be the only one left in spacetime. Fa Wuxian burst out laughing. Gu Chunxia, you're the person I hate the most. Of course, there was also Gu Taxian. Back in the divine central continent, Fa Wuxian, was supposed to be a mighty figure who dominated heaven and earth. But Gu Taxian was always above me. It was a nightmare I couldn't escape from. Thankfully, he's brought about his own destruction by merging with the Tao of heaven and creating this terrifying thing. In the river of fate, all of a sudden, Fa Wuxian's fate chi rose dramatically. His destiny had been that of a devouring dragon, and now that it had expanded, its aura was dozens of times more terrifying than before. In fact, it was now on the same level as the destiny of Emperor of Heaven, Gu Huaxia and Zhang Ziren. Moreover, what was even more amazing was that his fate and the largest terrifying sphere were all fused with the fate of the tentacles and the eyes. The destiny of this terrifying thing had appeared in the river of fate in the form of a sphere, filled with countless eyeballs, each of which had millions upon millions of tentacles. The tentacles looked like dragons, baring their fangs and brandishing their claws as they attempted to invade other worlds. And now, Fa Wuxian's destiny was connected to this terrifying thing. Gu Chunxia immediately sensed the appearance of this fate energy. Interesting. Fa Wuxian took the initiative to contact that terrifying thing, and that terrifying thing actually helped Fa Wuxian increase his cultivation base. Just nice, my plan has begun. First, I'll make Fa Wuxian my subject. Killing him won't do me any good. I'll force him to become my subject, and his heart will be twisted to the extreme by the torment. He will also be my test subject. Gu Chensha began his plan. At the same time, after a long roar, Fa Wuxian slowly stopped cultivating. His entire body's aura was hidden, making him look like an ordinary person. I'll sneak into that lord's court again and make a move on Zhang Yiren and the others, as well as Dharma Saint. Fa Wuxian thought for a moment. Originally, I wanted to deal with the new ancestor Wenhong and supreme ancestor Liu Baiwei. But they have Gu Chensha behind them, so it's not worth it. But that's not necessarily true. Right now, Gu Chensha probably can't easily deal with me. Is that so? At this time, a voice that Fa Wuxian absolutely did not want to hear appeared beside him. Who? Without thinking, Fa Wuxian enveloped the voice with devouring power. But the moment this devouring power came into contact with the voice, it immediately disappeared. At this time, Fa Wuxian saw Gu Chensha. Gu Chensha. When Fa Wuxian saw this enemy, it was as if he had seen an irreconcilable enemy, but he did not act rashly. Fa Wuxian, I deliberately let Zhang Yiren bring you out of the eternal world. You grew all the way to where you are now, and you can actually stand on equal footing with the Emperor of Heaven. It's not easy, but you actually cooperated with that terrifying thing to let its power enter your body. I can't believe you cooperated with a terrifying being and allowed his power to enter your body. It does seem like you're giving up everything. Gu Chensha smiled faintly. Gu Chensha, you also know everything? But it doesn't matter. I have reached an agreement with that terrifying thing. It won't be easy for you to deal with me. Today, either you die or I die. Fa Wuxian burst out with his strongest attack. His body fiercely exploded, and he rushed towards Gu Chensha. But this was just a feint. Then, in the next moment, he disappeared without a trace in the explosion. Running away with a bluff. Want to leave? So easy? In this world, there is no place where you can hide. Gu Chensha's hands moved, and suddenly, time and space rotated, and heaven and earth changed. Fa Wuxian appeared in front of him again. Gu Chensha, you are seeking death. Fighting until the fish dies and the net splits, we die together. Fa Wuxian's eyes were bloodshot, and he risked his life again. Chapter 1008. Mount Chapter 1005. Mount Indiscriminate Destruction? A life and death struggle? Gu Chensha laughed. Fa Wuxian, if you can hurt me in any way, I'll never come looking for you again. You've reached the peak of your strength. I wanted to keep you for a while longer, but you've obtained the power of that terrifying thing. You're courting death. If I didn't come, you'd soon reap what you sow. You think you can feign civility with that terrifying thing, but you don't know that you're overestimating yourself. Die. Fa Wuxian wasn't in the mood to listen to Gu Chensha's bullsh*t. His hatred for Gu Chensha was as deep as the ocean. Right now, he was going to put his life on the line and kill Gu Chensha. All arts come from the same source, 1,000 hearts are one. 100 elements destroy the world, 10 directions perish together, one path is eternal. Fa Wuxian's entire body transformed into a pitch-black, lightless black rainbow. It rumbled as it pierced through time and space, attacking Gu Chensha's body. This black beam of light could pierce through anything, and it could destroy anything that stood in its way. Anything that stood in its way was like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. Kill. This time, Fa Wuxian circulated all of his cultivation base. He didn't believe that Gu Chensha could block it. Interesting. Interesting. Gu Chensha laughed. He placed his hand in front of him, and the black beam of light touched his hand. It spun, twisted, and finally stopped, turning into a black worm. It crawled around on Gu Chencha's palm, but it couldn't escape. Gu Chensha, I want you dead. Fa Wuxian's voice came from within the black bug. He was furious to the extreme and began to transform. He once again condensed into a physical form in Gu Chencha's palm. He wanted to escape, but there was nothing he could do. From an outsider's point of view, the ancestral devouring art, which was so ferocious and majestic that it could devour all living things, was now like a tiny person who wasn't even 3 inches tall, hopping and cursing on Gu Chencha's palm, but unable to escape. Fa Wuxian, the world is about to change. The human world will welcome a new round of changes. That terrifying thing is about to come out, and once it does, you'll become a puppet or even a walking corpse. Even the walking dead. Do you really think you can resist the invasion of that terrifying thing? Gu Chensha said, Fa Wuxian, I want to establish a dynasty and gather all the ancestors. I want to use the dynasty's power to promote the Dragonless Sutra and expand the human world. Are you willing to be my subject? I can give you a chance. As long as you turn over a new leaf, be respectful and humble, and don't commit any more evil deeds, I won't do anything to you. Gu Chensha, you're amazing. But you can't destroy me. You want to turn me into an ordinary person? It won't be that easy. Even if you strip me of all my cultivation, I can still recover because I am the devouring ancestor. I can devour everything. My Tao of devouring has determined that I won't die. I will become stronger and stronger, and in the end, I will kill you. Fa Wuxian roared. Forget it, it seems like you're still stubborn. But it doesn't matter, I won't turn you into an ordinary person. It's meaningless to talk to you like that. I spent a lot of effort to raise you and let you become like this. I definitely won't let you become an ordinary person. You will be of great use in the future. Gu Chensha smiled. I'm establishing an imperial court, and I need a guard of honor. For example, a carriage and a beast to pull it. How about this? I'll turn you into a beast to pull the carriage. Do you want to become a cow or a horse? Or a tiger? A wolf? A dog? Gu Chensha, you'll die a horrible death. How dare you humiliate me like this? Fa Wuxian became even more enraged. He could not imagine how he would end up like a farm animal. This was much worse than being killed. When he heard this, he was almost angered to the extreme. He wanted nothing more than to activate the technique of self-destruction right then and there, so that he would not end up like this. But now, he was in Gu Chencha's hands. It would be hard for him to die even if he wanted to. Stubborn fool, change. Gu Chensha moved his palm slightly. Instantly, countless talismans were added to Fa Wuxian's body. Immediately, Fa Wuxian's body started to change. He crawled on the ground on all fours. Fur started to grow on his body. He actually turned into a dog. But his head didn't change. It was a human head with a dog's body. Ah! Seeing himself become like this, Fa Wuxian was so angry that he wanted to vomit blood. He roared, Gu Chensha, kill me if you can. How dare you humiliate me like this? Are you even human? Gu Chensha ignored him. Instead, he flicked his finger again. A dog's leash was tied around Fa Wuxian's neck. This made Fa Wuxian even more unable to transform. He could only appear in the form of a dog. Fa Wuxian, if you continue to shout hysterically, I can only make you bark like a dog. If you behave, I'll turn you into another beast. Gu Chensha smiled. You can only be a dog now. You can't be a beast to pull the carriage. Gu Chensha, I'll remember this humiliation. Fa Wuxian's face was ferocious, but he suddenly calmed down. Let's go. Gu Chensha ignored Fa Wuxian's hatred. He held the dog's leash and said, Later, I'll find you a companion. It's that the Great Spirit God. He can also become a dog. This pair of dogs will become a characteristic of the dynasty. As he spoke, Gu Chensha led Fa Wuxian away. Fa Wuxian's humiliation was indescribable. It was even more humiliating than the Lei families Lei Jiuan and Lei Jishue, who were forever kneeling on the plaza. Back then, the Lei family's two brothers were only kneeling. But now, Fa Wuxian had become a dog. He was being led around by someone. Moreover, he had a human head and a dog's body. Everyone could tell at a glance that this was Fa Wuxian, the famous devouring ancestor Fa Wuxian. There was another place in the human realm called the God's Continent. This continent was very big. It was almost a unique universe. Although it belonged to the human realm, the timeline and space were completely different. This God's Continent was made up of many worlds. There were many countries. These countries were completely different civilizations. Some were similar to magic civilization, some were similar to immortal Tao, martial Tao, and even some technological civilizations. There were countless humans and countries living in this God's Continent. They didn't worship the emperor as the number one. Instead, they worshipped the gods. The emperor was given by the gods. The emperor was just a representative chosen by the gods. On this God's Continent there were many gods. However, the highest god was the God Ancestor. The God Ancestor was the Great Spirit God. In these 1,000 years, he had become an ancestor. That was the heaven realm. Moreover, he occupied the God's Continent. He subdued countless subordinates and created a God's civilization. This God's Continent was much more mysterious than the divine realm. At this moment, the Great Spirit God was sitting under the Supreme God throne. Below him, many experts of the heaven primordial realm were kneeling. At this moment, he was talking to a few guests. These guests were Gu Tanjian, Gu Changjian, Jing Qiu, Gu Hua, Wan Senshi, Jiang Chuan, and others. Gu Tanjian's cultivation was actually the sword ancestor of the heaven primordial realm. He was the reincarnation of the infinity sword. Gu Changjian became the saber ancestor because he was the reincarnation of the infinity sword. Jing Qiu became the ancestor Qiu, and Gu Hua became the ancestor disaster. Gu Hua was the reincarnation of the Calamity King. Wan Senshi was slightly worse. He had also cultivated to the heaven realm. However, he could not understand the power of immortality. Actually, he could not be called an ancestor. Jiang Chuan was the immortal ancestor. This young man betrayed the Yonko and became the lord of the celestial realm. Later on, the entire celestial realm was integrated into the human realm. However, Jiang Chuan seized the opportunity and cultivated to the immortal ancestor in these 1,000 years. This time, the Great Spirit God gathered all of them together. To discuss important matters, there were many plans. Everyone, what do you think we should do now? The changes in the human realm are getting more and more intense. The heavenly court has gone into seclusion. Gu Chensha is not coming out. Many things are changing day by day. We can no longer understand it. The Great Spirit God said. Gu Chensha is not coming out. Emperor of Heaven has gone into seclusion. This is a good thing for us. We can develop our own forces as much as we want. The sword ancestor Gu Tanjian said. Actually, Emperor of Heaven and Gu Huasha are working together to restrain Gu Chensha. Neither of them dares to make a move. We can rise in this gap. When the world changes, we will have the power to turn the world upside down. Has Fa Wuxian arrived? Jing Qiu asked. The Great Spirit God, you even informed Fa Wuxian about this gathering. I'm afraid it's not appropriate. He has already become the ancestor devouring. He doesn't recognize anyone. He devours whoever he catches. Also, I noticed that his fate has been increasing recently. I'm afraid he has understood some secret. His fate is actually about the same as Zhang Ziren, Emperor of Heaven, and Gu Huasha. If we work with him, I'm afraid it's like asking a tiger for its skin. We won't get any benefits. I'm afraid we'll be killed by him. It doesn't matter. The Great Spirit God said, I naturally have a way. Moreover, we can work together and push Fa Wuxian up. Let him fight to the death with Zhang Ziren, Emperor of Heaven, Gu Huasha, and even Gu Chunsha. Won't we be able to take advantage of him? In any case, Fa Wuxian has become extremely twisted and scary. However, in terms of fighting against Gu Chunsha, he is the same as us. He also needs help to fight against Gu Chunsha. The Great Spirit God said, I feel that Gu Chunsha hasn't done anything to us all these years because he wants to fatten us up. Now that we have all become ancestors, to Gu Chunsha, it's already fattened us up. Gu Chunsha and I have a personal grudge. He will never let me go. These years, I've been hiding. Now that I've become a god ancestor, I've also comprehended some supreme mysteries. I'm not going to hide anymore. I'm going to fight back. Gu Chunsha must die. Wan Senshi said, I was like a rat on the street because of him. I didn't expect that Emperor of Heaven would be defeated so quickly. Originally, I thought that Emperor of Heaven and Gu Chunsha could fight for a long time. Jing Qiu sighed. Fa Wuxian is coming. The Great Spirit God suddenly said. Chapter 1009. Livestock. Chapter 1006. Livestock. Everyone be on guard. When Jing Qiu heard the Great Spirit God say that, he was already on guard. In the divine central plains, Jing Qiu and Fa Wuxian actually had a grudge against each other. Back then, they had fought over the secrets of the Polaris star's reincarnation, and Jing Qiu had even lost to Fa Wuxian. Later on, Fa Wuxian had been unable to recover from that setback, and Gu Chunsha had found the underwater cave he had been hiding in and snatched away his fortuitous encounter. That was a matter of the past. Although it had been a long time, Jing Qiu did not think that Fa Wuxian had let go of that grudge. On the contrary, Fa Wuxian would definitely seek revenge for the smallest grievance. Over the past few days, Fa Wuxian had actually hunted down Jing Qiu many times, but Jing Qiu had some tricks up his sleeves. By hiding and working together, he had not been killed and devoured by Fa Wuxian. Gu Tanjian, Gu Changjian, and the others were also extremely wary of Fa Wuxian. Everyone got into formation, ready to join forces to resist Fa Wuxian's rampage at any time. After Fa Wuxian became the devourer progenitor, he had become very temperamental and could devour anything at any time. They could not let their guard down. Ripples appeared one after another. The first thing that appeared was a dog. No, to be more precise, it was something with a human head and a dog's body. This human head was Fa Wuxian's head, and around Fa Wuxian's neck was a dog's leash, and it was being led by someone from behind. The human-headed dog monster exuded a devouring power that made people despair. Without a doubt, everyone here knew that this monster with a human head and a dog's body was Fa Wuxian. They didn't know who turned him into this. This was a huge humiliation, and it was even more unbearable than killing him. What's going on? A great fear enveloped Jing Qiu's heart. Apart from Jing Qiu, Gu Tanjian, Gu Changjian, Wan Senshi, and the rest were also terrified. Who could humiliate Fa Wuxian into a dog and even lead him on a leash? Then, the truth came to light. Gu Chunsha was holding Fa Wuxian's hand. Gu Chunsha appeared in front of everyone and looked around. Everyone, how have you been? We're all old friends in the Central Divine Prefecture. What are you all discussing together? Would you mind telling me? This Fa Wuxian was disobedient and caused trouble everywhere, so I turned him into a dog to temper his temper. What do you think? Gu Chunsha, I won't let you get away with this. You might as well kill me. I hate it, I hate it. You beasts, Jing Qiu, Gu Tanjian, Gu Changjian, the Great Spirit God, you're all useless things. You've been hiding for so many years, and now you're in big trouble. If you'd known earlier, I would have devoured you and pushed my power to the limit, and I wouldn't be afraid of Gu Chunsha. Heavens, how could I, Fa Wuxian, end up like this? Fa Wuxian howled hysterically again. He had been turned into a dog, and now he was in front of so many people. The humiliation multiplied. He felt that there was no one in the world who was more humiliated than he was. Gu Chensha Yu. The Great Spirit God moved and tried to escape. However, with a slight movement from Gu Chensha, he had already taken control of the entire scene. All space-time was completely sealed, and this place became an independent space. No matter how the mighty miracle God changed, it was of no use. Gu Chensha, what are you doing? Gu Tanjian was racking his brains, not daring to attack. What am I doing? Gu Chensha flicked his fingers and a throne appeared. He sat on it. Everyone, I want to establish a dynasty that unifies the human world and become the only great emperor. I want to strengthen order and do some things. You can all become my subjects and sit under me. What do you think? If you don't agree, Fa Wuxian is an example. Of course, Fa Wuxian colluded with that terrifying thing and tried to destroy the human world, so he should be imprisoned. I'm willing to submit. The Great Spirit God's eyes turned and he immediately agreed. He was very good at changing the direction of the wind. He could endure even more humiliating things. Very good, the Great Spirit God, it's good that you took the lead. However, your sins are too great. Even if you take the lead, it's useless. Moreover, you are thick-skinned, so it doesn't matter if you suffer more humiliation. Of course, I still need you, Gu Chensha said. So, you should become a dog like Fa Wuxian. No. The mighty miracle god's body exploded, and he tried to escape in all directions. However, Gu Chensha pointed with his hand, and the power of immortality surrounded him from all directions. Once again, he gathered all of the mighty miracle god's cultivation base together, and then he also became a monster with a human head and a dog's body. He was wearing a dog chain, and he crawled on the ground side by side with Fa Wuxian. Those two won't repent. That's why I'm being a bit harsh on them. Jingqiu, what do you think? Gu Chensha said. Gu Chensha, your dragonless heart technique emphasizes freedom and freedom. But now you're trying to intimidate all living beings. That's going against your will. Your cultivation base will definitely be affected. What are you trying to do? Jingqiu pretended to be calm. Your cultivation base is too low. Gu Chensha waved his hand. There's no point in explaining it to you. You won't understand. What if we don't submit, Gu Chensha? Are you going to turn us all into dogs? Wan Senshi found it very difficult to calm down. Wan Senshi, of course you're in the Central Divine Prefecture. You've been throwing the world into chaos. You actually tied my subordinates to pillars. Later, I made some progress in my cultivation, but I was busy with other things. I didn't have time to deal with you. Now that you've jumped out, I have some ideas. How about this? You imprisoned Yuan Lu all those years ago, and tied her to a pillar as a warning to everyone. Today, I'll turn you into a chariot-pulling mount. You'll pull Yuan Lu's chariot. Even as he spoke, Gu Chensha waved his hand, and a space-time tunnel appeared. Yuan Lu walked out then bowed. Greetings, subordinate. This is Wan Senshi. Although he's reached the heaven realm, he hasn't been called an ancestor. Now I'll reduce him to a chariot-pulling mount for you to order around. Gu Chensha waved his hand and a chariot appeared. Then he waved his hand again, and Wan Senshi screamed. He turned into a horse, but with the head of a man and the body of a horse. The head was still Wan Senshi's head, but the body was that of a horse, tied to a chariot. Gu Chensha, you and I are irreconcilable enemies. I curse you. I curse you to fall. Wan Senshi cursed viciously. Seeing the Great Spirit God turn into a dog, and Wan Senshi become a chariot-pulling horse, everyone present trembled in fear. They would rather die than be humiliated like this. I've offended you, Gu Chensha. What do you want to turn me into? Jingqiu said calmly. Jingqiu, you're a talented and daring person. Back then, you were the first to rebel against the imperial court. Although you were suppressed, your courage is commendable. I'm not going to deal with you. As long as you submit to me and help me do things, I won't humiliate you. Gu Chunshao naturally had his own plans. Subordinate obeys. At this time, he had no choice but to lower his head. Jing Qiu knelt down. Gu Chunshao, how are you going to deal with us? Gu Tanjian said coldly. You? Gu Chunshao said, you were originally my nephews. Unfortunately, you were stubborn and used your abilities recklessly. However, your abilities are the limitless sword, the reincarnation of the limitless blade. You can revert to your original form, becoming a blade and a sword. Change. As he spoke, waves of power flowed into Gu Tanjian's body. Immediately, Gu Tanjian roared, Gu Chunshao, you actually want to turn me into a sword? I'd rather die than do this. It's not up to you. Gu Chunshao snapped his fingers. Instantly, a blade and a sword appeared in the air. They were the transformations of Gu Tanjian and Gu Chongjian. Jin Suebua. Gu Chunshao called out. Subordinate is here. At this time, a man with the aura of a peerless strategist appeared. He was an elder of the everlasting celestial sect who had been by Gu Chensha's side for a long time, Jin Suebua. In the divine central plains, Jin Suebua had been the strategist behind the seventh Prince Gafasa, but he had been convinced by Zhuge. Now, Jin Suebua had become the patriarch of schemes. And Zhuge was the patriarch of schemes. The quality of this blade and sword has completely surpassed that of the endless blade. The endless sword can serve as a symbol of authority for the new dynasty, Gu Chunshao said. Swish, swish, swish. Soon after, Lu Baiwei, Wenhong, Zhuge, the martial sage, Chang Weiyang, Chang Yuzhou, Frost Jade, Long Yun, and the others who had followed Gu Chunshao in the divine central plains, appeared one after another. They had all become patriarchs. Jing Qiu Gu Hua, Gu Chunshao said. I can give you some tasks. You'll establish a new dynasty and dominate the world. You'll truly govern the myriad realms and unify the human realm. You'll assist the imperial court in spreading the Dragonless Heart Sutra so that many living beings don't need to absorb the nutrients of the human realm to survive. Instead, you'll be better off giving them to the human realm. That's true merit, Gu Chunshao said. If that's the case, we have nothing else to say. We're willing to submit. Jing Qiu and Gu Hua knew that there was no longer any room for negotiation. Seeing that Fa Wuxian had turned into a human-headed dog, the great spirit god did the same. Gu Tanjian and Gu Chongjian had turned into blades, while Wan Senshi had turned into a horse pulling a chariot. This truly shocked the two of them. Gu Chunshao didn't make a move, but when he did, it was a move that made them feel worse than death. You too can start establishing a dynasty, a palace even more powerful than the heavenly court, Gu Chunshao said. I'll go talk to the Emperor of Heaven and have him become my vassal as well. Chunshao, I'm afraid the Emperor of Heaven won't agree. Wenhong smiled. It doesn't matter. Gu Chunshao held Fa Wuxian and the great spirit god by the leash. I'm turning into a dog for the Emperor of Heaven to see. If he dares to defy me, he'll end up the same. I've been making arrangements all these years, and I haven't used any thunderous methods. Now is the most crucial time for my arrangements. I need to change my previous methods as well. I've been too lenient in the past, causing the people of the world to be completely ignorant of my power. Chapter 10:10. After taking care of Fa Wuxian, the great spirit god, Gu Tanjian, Gu Chongjian, Wan Senshi, Jing Qiu, Gu Hua, and the others, Gu Chunshao led Fa Wuxian and the great spirit god to a space-time node in the human realm. This space-time node was constantly moving. Every moment it would change hundreds of millions of times. Even a heaven realm expert would not be able to figure out the location of this space-time node. This was the place where the Emperor of Heaven lived. Although the Emperor of Heaven had completely given up on ruling the heavens, his strength had become stronger. He had re-examined and changed his ideas, secretly spreading hope to all living beings. In the past 1,000 years, he had created the human world with the help of the dust and sand, secretly spreading countless ideas to the hearts of all living beings in the human world. Now, many living beings had a beautiful heavenly court in their hearts. When all living beings were angry, desperate, sad, and other negative emotions, a beautiful hope would be born in their hearts. A beautiful hope would be born in their hearts, and that would be the heavenly court. The heavenly court was where their hope was. It could be said that the Emperor of Heaven had become the ancestor of hope. People placed all their hopes and wishes on the celestial Emperor of the heavenly court, such as eternal life, strength, beauty, and so on. This caused the Emperor of Heaven's strength to become more and more tyrannical. There were even some people who, under the guidance of the Emperor of Heaven, actually entered the heavenly court and learned supreme divine arts. They obtained great power and became the main character of a continent, a space-time, or a world. The human realm had endless continents, endless worlds, and endless planes. These planes also had many countries, powers, immortal sects, and so on, forming a complex and ever-changing world and countless civilizations. The Emperor of Heaven was constantly guiding the evolution of these planes and worlds. He was also carrying out his own arrangements. However, in Gu Chencha's eyes, this kind of tyranny was just child's play. It wasn't very solid. Even if the Emperor of Heaven was 10 times more powerful, he still wouldn't be a match for the current Gu Chencha. From Gu Chencha's point of view, the Emperor of Heaven actually didn't give back to the human world or the universe. This caused his power to be unable to advance any further. Come out! Suddenly, Gu Chencha made a grabbing motion, and a certain spatial node froze. Then, a brand new world appeared. Gu Chencha is really thinking of subduing the Emperor of Heaven. Fa Wuxian, who had turned into a dog, and the Great Spirit God, who had also turned into a dog, were communicating with each other. Now, their cultivation was still there, but without Gu Chencha's permission, they couldn't use any divine abilities or spells at all. Apart from that, their every move now required Gu Chencha's approval. Otherwise, they could only be obedient dogs. Our cultivation is still there. Sooner or later, we will break free. At that time, I will make Gu Chencha pay back 1,000 times. The anger in Fa Wuxian's heart was getting stronger and stronger. He himself couldn't control it anymore. Maybe he would be burned by his own anger at any time. On the other hand, the Great Spirit God's anger was slightly smaller. Are you feeling very humiliated? Are you feeling very angry? Gu Chencha smiled. However, this is just the beginning. In the future, all kinds of filth in the human world will be cleaned up by the two of you. After I establish my dynasty, I will let the two of you devour the filth and purify the world. As long as the two of you do a good job, there is still a chance for you to transcend in the future. If you don't do a good job, you can only do it for the rest of your life. For example, in the human world, the excrement of all living beings pollutes the earth. The two of you can devour the excrement and purify it in your body. This is merit. Oh my God! Fa Wuxian almost fainted. The Great Spirit God was also terrified. No, Gu Chencha, I am willing to submit to you, I am willing to completely submit to you. Is that so? The Great Spirit God, do you still think you can trust me? Gu Chencha waved his hand. Alright, if I kill the two of you directly, it will be too easy for you. As I said, your pain has just begun. This is just atonement. As Gu Chencha spoke, the ancient heavenly court appeared in front of them. The heavenly court stood tall and majestic. High up in the sky, every inch of the building emitted a strong light of hope. Gu Chencha directly landed on the heavenly court's main hall. The heavenly court was empty. Only the Emperor of Heaven sat on the throne. Seeing Gu Chencha's arrival, he still did not move. He only looked at the two dogs, Fa Wuxian and the Great Spirit God. Gu Chencha, you finally came to my place and faced me head-on. You turned Fa Wuxian and the mighty miracle god into two dogs. Are you trying to show off to me? The Sky Sovereign was high and mighty as he spoke in a deep voice. No matter how you hide, you have nowhere to hide in front of me. Gu Chensha looked at the Emperor of Heaven and shook his head. However, I punished Fa Wuxian and the Great Spirit God to let you see that I am here to set up a plan to establish a dynasty. You can become my subject. If you are unwilling, what awaits you will be the same as Fa Wuxian and the Great Spirit God. I know that you have accumulated many trump cards over the years. However, in front of me, these trump cards are as good as nothing. You don't think that your pitiful strength can resist my suppression, do you? I still have the ability to choose to self-destruct, the Emperor of Heaven said after a moment of silence. Not at all. Gu Chensha's eyes were calm. If I make a move, you will beg for death. From the moment you were born, you have been high and mighty. Now that you want to become my subject, you cannot change your mind. However, it doesn't matter. When you see Fa Wuxian and the Great Spirit God, you will understand. Emperor of Heaven, you coward. At this time, if I were you, I would fight Gu Chensha to the death. Gu Chensha is not as strong as you think he is. You can completely fuse with Gu Huasha and transform, and then completely resist him. Fa Wuxian roared. Fa Wuxian, you're really pitiful, the Emperor of Heaven said. You don't know what's good for you. Endless humiliation is waiting for you in the future. Gu Chensha, I am indeed the Emperor of Heaven, but I know that all glory comes from power. Without power, any glory can turn into humiliation. This is the eternal truth between the heaven and earth. Your power and cultivation level far surpass mine. I have no other choice but to submit to you and become your subject. Very well, Gu Chensha said. Then why don't you get down from your seat? Yes. At this time, the Emperor of Heaven seemed to have changed into a different person. He obediently got down from the throne and knelt down on one knee in front of Gu Chensha. At the moment he knelt down, Gu Chensha felt his destiny boiling. The fate of the entire human world had changed. His dragonless heart technique seemed to have undergone a subtle transformation. The Emperor of Heaven used to be the ruler of the heaven and earth, the representative of the heavenly Tao. He made the rules, killed everything, and controlled everything. But the original predestined destiny was completely destroyed by Gu Chensha. Now, the original ruler of the heaven and earth was kneeling in front of him, becoming his subject. In this way, the river of fate created by Gu Chensha could be considered to have truly stabilized. Of course, subjugating the Emperor of Heaven as his subject was a huge risk. In the future, the Emperor of Heaven might rebel at any time. But Gu Chensha didn't care. After all, unifying the heaven and earth was actually just a setup. Once the setup was completed, he would capture and refine that terrifying thing. In the future, the heaven and earth universe would naturally enter a whole new realm and level. Seeing the Emperor of Heaven kneel, Gu Chensha shouted, "The fourth, why aren't you coming out yet?" At this moment, the space in the heavenly court distorted, and a person appeared with a bitter smile on his face. It was the fourth Gu Huasha. Old 19, I didn't expect you to grow to this extent. No matter how much I cultivate, I can't compare to you. What's the difference between us? When we were in the Central Divine Prefecture, I didn't think I was any weaker than you. The fourth Gu Huasha's tone was filled with a great deal of unwillingness. The difference between us is actually very simple. You don't dare to destroy everything and sweep everything away. You don't have any courage or wisdom. Gu Chensha said, ever since you broke away from me and started calling yourself the Nihility Ancestor, you wanted to maintain the status quo. You were afraid to take that crucial step. But you might drag the entire world and all living beings into eternal damnation. Or you might destroy them all, the fourth Gu Huasha said. That's not destruction or death, but transcendence, Gu Chensha said. Of course, you still don't understand my reasoning yet. When you slowly help me build my empire, implement the Dragonless Heart Sutra, and bring the world into a new era, you'll understand that my ideas aren't empty words. Now that things have come to this, there's nothing I can say. The fourth Gu Huasha said, Emperor of Heaven, it looks like we can only wait for an opportunity. There might still be hope in the future. In that case, come with me. There's no longer any need for the heavenly court to exist. Melt it into the human world. With a wave of Gu Chencha's hand, the heavenly court that the Emperor of Heaven had spent countless years building was reduced to nothingness. The Emperor of Heaven couldn't help but feel his heart clench when he saw this. Ever since he had built the heavenly court, he had painstakingly built it. Over the past 1,000 years, he had extracted the power of hope from the hearts of all living beings, turning the heavenly court into something akin to the highest aspiration and hope. With the heavenly court, all living beings would have hope. As a result, the heavenly court itself was actually more powerful than he was. This was also the most important part of his trump card. But now, the heavenly court that he had painstakingly built had collapsed with a wave of Gu Chencha's hand. Only now did he realize how childish and laughable some of his trump cards were in front of Gu Chensha. Chapter 10-11. Large-Scale Harvest. Chapter 1008. Large-Scale Harvest. Emperor of Heaven's celestial court was melted by Gu Chensha. Even the fourth Gu Huasha was shocked. He knew that he and the Emperor of Heaven were actually restraining each other, and neither could do anything to the other. That was why they hadn't been able to devour each other all these years. The fourth Gu Huasha knew all about the trump cards of the Emperor of Heaven. Because of this, he knew how powerful the Emperor of Heaven was. But now, the Emperor of Heaven's cultivation was like an ant in front of Gu Chensha. Who is the 19th brother? I've done so much, I've trained so hard, but I'm not even as good as a finger of his. What's the difference between us? I've inherited my father's bloodline, and I'm also the one who gave birth to the heavenly way. When it comes to luck and talent, I'm the best in the world. But why is Gu Chensha so much stronger than me? I can't accept this. I can't accept this. As the Nihility ancestor, Gu Huasha was very unwilling. Now, there were countless ancestors in the world, but the number one ancestor was the Nihility ancestor. Even the human ancestor Zhang Ziren was not as good as him. As the first ancestor, he was still ordered around by Gu Chensha like a child. How could he accept this? However, he didn't dare to resist, because he had seen the examples of Fa Wuxian and the Great Spirit God. These two powerful beings, one devouring ancestor and the other god ancestor, had become like dogs. This was extremely humiliating, and the fourth would never allow himself to become like this. Although he knew that even if he resisted, Gu Chensha might not humiliate him like this, he couldn't be 100% sure, because Gu Chensha had to deal with the birth of that terrifying thing. For the sake of the overall situation, sacrificing himself was nothing. At that moment, the fourth Gu Huasha said, Old 19, since you've attacked so forcefully, I have nothing else to say. I'm under someone else's roof, so I have no choice but to bow my head. Very good. It's rare for you to think this way. Gu Chensha laughed and said, You and Emperor of Heaven, I'm going to make the two of you the rulers of the imperial court. Now, tell me what to do. I'll go down to the mortal court and make human ancestor Zhang Ziren, spell ancestor, and ancestor E submit to me. That will be the end of the matter. That's the only way. Emperor of Heaven shook his head. Gu Huasha, Emperor of Heaven. The two of you are useless. Fa Wuxian cursed loudly. He was forever unconvinced and would never submit to Gu Chensha. Right now, he wanted to infuriate Gu Chensha into killing him so that he could relieve his pain as soon as possible. Very good. Gu Chensha looked at Fa Wuxian and said, Fa Wuxian, I can feel your anger growing. I want to see what happens when a person's anger and resentment reaches its peak. I feel like your resentment and hatred are the strongest in the world. You're much stronger than hate ancestor, resentment ancestor, and rage ancestor. But that's not enough. I'm going to humiliate you even more. Emperor of Heaven, what do you think we should do? Only then can Fa Wuxian's humiliation reach its peak? This was a question for the Emperor of Heaven. It was a test. Actually, that's easy. You turned Fa Wuxian into a dog. It's humiliating, but it's not the most humiliating. If it were me, I would turn him into a female dog, and then let the great spirit god, the male dog, devour him. Isn't Fa Wuxian known as the Ancestor Devourer? Isn't he good at devouring everything? So it's not a big deal for him to be devoured. Besides, this can be used as an example for the human world. We can spread it everywhere. Emperor of Heaven said calmly. Emperor of Heaven, you animal! I'm going to kill you! I'm going to kill you! When Fa Wuxian heard Celestial Thearka's words, he almost fainted. He felt that his anger and hatred were about to burn him. Emperor of Heaven, you're not bad. Gu Chensha nodded. This can be done. The hatred in Fa Wuxian's heart can destroy countless spacetimes. This hatred is no longer an external power, but a supreme destruction that comes from within the soul. My Dragonless Heart Sutra is the power of the soul. This hatred experiment can be used as fuel for my Dragonless Heart Sutra. No. Fa Wuxian was truly terrified. Don't do this. Gu Chensha, I'm willing to submit. I'm afraid of you. Don't do this to me. You can't be so vicious. Fa Wuxian, when you devoured others, countless people begged you, but you didn't let them live. Why is it happening to you now? Why can't you accept it? Emperor of Heaven laughed. The Great Spirit God, what do you think? I'll listen to everything Lord Gu Chensha says. At this moment, the mighty miracle god seemed to have resigned himself to adversity. I will do whatever Lord asks me to do. All right, let's go to the human world's Lord's court. Gu Chensha said, in the Lord's court, we'll let Fa Wuxian suffer this humiliation. We'll make an example out of him. As he spoke, he waved his hand. Space-time reversed, and everyone descended into the human world. Human world, Lord's court. Now, there were many continents in the human world. Tens of thousands of races rose, and heroes appeared. However, the Lord's court was still the Lord's court, led by Zhang Ziren. This was because Zhang Ziren was the human ancestor. At that moment, Zhang Ziren was in the Lord's court. Countless ministers and civil and military officials were in the hall. At that moment, the Spell Ancestor, the Taoist Ancestor, the Outsider Ancestor, and the other ancestors were also here. Apart from them, there was also the Ancestor of Magic. When the Ancestor of Magic was born, he fused with the Ancestor of Heaven, Wu Dankong, and escaped from Fa Wuxian's pursuit with the Dragon Valley continent. Later, Fa Wuxian chased after them relentlessly. Left with no choice, the Ancestor of Magic could only seek refuge with the Lord's court. With the human ancestor Zhang Ziren in charge, Fa Wuxian could do nothing for now. Everyone. At that moment, the human ancestor Zhang Ziren sat on the throne and looked down. He was extremely powerful now, and had even refined part of that terrible thing's will. He held great power in his hands, and no one could resist him. Today, I called for a meeting in the court for a very simple reason: to reorganize the Lord's court. In the long run, there will be too many ancestors in the Lord's court, and our government's decrees won't work. As a result, many good policies can't be carried out, which may not be a good thing. Right now, the situation in the human world is extremely complicated. Countless nobodies have obtained fortuitous encounters in a short time, and all of them have soared to the sky. Look, the insufferably arrogant 6 great empires of 1,000 years ago, Qin, Han, Tang, Song, Yuan, and Ming, were all destroyed. Instead, they were unified by a nobody, destiny ancestor, and formed the Great Fate dynasty. Right now, the Great Fate dynasty isn't as powerful as the Lord's Court, but it's still developing tremendously. If we continue to have internal strife, it's very likely that the Great Fate dynasty will surpass the Lord's Court, and we'll all become prisoners. We might even be completely destroyed, never to rise again. Everyone be vigilant. None of the ancestors said anything. Zhang Ziren continued, "Next, I will abolish the nihility ancestor. The nihility ancestor has never appeared before, and he has contributed nothing to the Lord's Court. He must be abolished. Next, spell ancestor, outsider ancestor, magic ancestor, and Taoist ancestor. You people are not allowed to interfere with the Lord's Court. If you do, don't blame me for being impolite." Zhang Ziren's words were very blunt, almost threatening. He had the confidence and power to do so. "Zhang Ziren, don't forget that you are the emperor of the Lord's Court, but our power is divided equally. You want to suppress us? Don't you think you're dreaming?" A woman's voice came from the magic ancestor. It was Wu Dankong. "Wu Dankong, you're not dead yet." Zhang Ziren laughed. "I thought you were killed by Fa Wuxian. I didn't expect you to be living in the magic ancestor's body. Are you trying to collect the undying power to revive? I'll tell you the truth. Even if you revive, it won't do you any good. Zhang Ziren, you're destroying yourself." Spell Ancestor Dharma Saint suddenly said, "We have to work together to stop the enemy. Fa Wuxian's fate has been increasing. He's very strong. I'm afraid you won't be able to stop him. If he devours you, we won't help you. I'm the human ancestor, and I'm very strong. After I get rid of you, I'll go suppress Fa Wuxian. I'll show you whether or not he's my opponent. As for you, if you don't submit to me, then I'm sorry. None of you can leave today. Spell Ancestor, you should know how strong I am." Zhang Ziren said, "Today, I've made up my mind. Don't hit a rock with an egg." "Zhang Ziren, you're not invincible. I think we shouldn't fight among ourselves. Let's work together." Wu Dankong said, "Actually, your biggest enemy is Gu Chunsha, not Fa Wuxian. Also, you should work together with the Emperor Heaven and the Nihility Ancestor. We'll form a ruling dynasty. We'll all be elders, and then we'll hold elections every few years. Everything needs to be decided by the elders. That's the Real Foundation. How about it?" "Wu Dankong, it looks like I'll have to kill you first." Zhang Ziren suddenly grabbed, and the magic ancestor's body began to tremble. Countless powers wrapped around him, making it impossible for him to use any spells. Suddenly, a wave of power descended from the sky, cutting off Zhang Ziren's power. This power contained the power of nothingness. "Nihility Ancestor, you've finally appeared." Zhang Ziren pulled back and looked at the Nihility Ancestor Gu Huasha. "I knew you'd show up today. I cancelled your Nihility Ancestor sacrifice. You couldn't take it, but today is the day to decide who's going to win. Zhang Ziren, at a time like this, you're still trying to decide who's going to win." The Nihility Ancestor Gu Huasha laughed bitterly. "Gu Chunsha is here. From now on, he's the only overlord in this world. We can't resist him." As he spoke, the Emperor Heaven descended. After Gu Huasha and the Emperor Heaven were in position, Gu Chunsha appeared. In his hands were two dogs. One was Fa Wuxian, and the other was the Great Spirit God. Then, he looked at Zhang Ziren. Zhang Ziren's body involuntarily flew out of the throne. Gu Chunsha sat down. Chapter 10-12. Number 1009 The Strongest Dynasty. Number 1009 The Strongest Dynasty. Gu Chunsha, you're going too far. Zhang Ziren was infuriated that Gu Chunsha had forced him off his throne. He suddenly made a move, and a mid-man dimensional realm appeared in his palm, which he sent hurtling toward Gu Chunsha. Gu Chunsha didn't even look at it. He simply waved his hand. Instantly, the mid-man dimensional realm flew back, transformed into a sphere, and pressed down on top of Zhang Ziren's head. "Kneel." Gu Chensha only said 2 words. "Rumble." Zhang Ziren couldn't help but fall to his knees. The former ruler of the mortal world and the current emperor of the great dynasty was kneeling just like that. "I refuse to accept this." Zhang Ziren was just about to shout, but then he saw Fa Wuxian, who had turned into a human head and a dog's body. His jaw dropped. "That's Fa Wuxian. How did he become like this? Fa Wuxian's destiny is about the same as mine. That's why I feel so pressured to subjugate all the ancestors and kill Fa Wuxian." Zhang Ziren's roar came to an abrupt halt. "Everyone, I am Gu Chensha." Gu Chensha sat upright on the throne in front of all the ancestors, as well as all the civil and military officials of the great dynasty. "I'm going to unify the mortal world, and everyone will submit to me. There's no question about it. Those who don't will end up like Fa Wuxian and the Great Spirit God. Don't you agree, Emperor of Heaven?" Emperor of Heaven bowed his head respectfully. "That's right. Fa Wuxian and the Great Spirit God will suffer the most excruciating torture, and be consigned to eternal damnation. They'll beg for death, but they won't be able to. Everyone, if you don't want to be humiliated by Fa Wuxian and the Great Spirit God, then follow my orders. Emperor of Heaven, you're a supreme paragon. I can't believe you'd yield." Suddenly, Wu Dongkong's voice came from the ancestor of magic again. "It seems that not only can you not be the Emperor of Heaven, you can't even be an ordinary person. You have lost the self-respect that you should have. From now on, you are no longer the famous Emperor of Heaven. You are even more cowardly than Fa Wuxian." Wu Dangkong was so angry that he almost roared again and again. "Is that so?" Gu Chensha grabbed out. Instantly, a shadow was pulled out from the body of the ancestor of magic. Next, the shadow condensed into Wu Dongkong's body, then twisted and contorted until it was a mare with the head of a human and the body of a horse. "Wan Senshi has become a horse," Gu Chensha said. "Now that you've become a horse, you can go pull the carriage. That's a good idea. Where is Yuhuan Lu? Your subordinate is here." Space opened up, and a carriage appeared in the hall. The horse pulling the carriage was none other than Wan Senshi. However, he was still cursing and swearing. Every time he cursed, Yuhuan Lu viciously lashed out with her whip. Smack! Instantly, Wan Senshi's flesh was lacerated, and it was difficult for him to heal. A rancid odor emanated from him. Wan Senshi screamed in pain. Compared to the time he had tied Yuhuan Lu to a pillar, he was in a much more miserable state. Furthermore, right now Wan Senshi would never be able to free himself. Put Wu Dangkong on the carriage as well. It'll be better to have 2 horses pulling the carriage. In the future, when we roam the human world, we'll let all the experts see what happens to those who don't submit. Gu Chensha had changed his calm demeanor for thousands of years. When he was truly domineering, he was sending a signal to everyone. Those who submit will prosper, and those who oppose will perish. Yes. In an instant, a rope was wrapped around Wu Dongkong's neck. Wu Dangkong was placed side by side with Wan Senshi, and was now a horse pulling the carriage. "No!" Wu Dangkong howled once more, but Yuhuan Lu didn't hold back. She directly lashed out with her whip, causing Wu Dangkong to tear up from the pain. "Everyone, what do you think?" Gu Chensha circled around. "From today onwards, the great dynasty no longer exists, and will be replaced by the great Yonko. In the entire world, there is only one great Yonko. All other powers must be disintegrated. The human world will be truly unified, and this chaotic world will be ended." "Mr. Gu Chensha, you're going too far." At this time, a subject stepped forward and spoke. This subject was one of the many civil and military officials. He wasn't an ancestor, but a Sky Yuan expert. He was wearing a scholarly robe, and appeared to be refined and scholarly. He naturally had a graceful bearing. "Scholarly, don't speak nonsense. By now, Zhang Ziren understood that Gu Chencha's influence was unstoppable. When he heard his former subordinate speak, he turned pale with fright. Human ancestor, you used to be the emperor, but now you've been ousted. However, you should be fighting for what's right. Our Confucian sect values righteousness, and this Gu Chencha is going too far. Killing people is just a matter of nodding your head to the ground. If you want to kill someone, just do it. But humiliating others like this is no longer what a benevolent and righteous monarch should be. Our Confucian sect's #1 disciple won't agree. Who is this person? Gu Chencha intentionally asked Zhang Ziren. Replying to your majesty. Zhang Ziren had seen the fates of Wu Dankong, Fa Wuxian, and the Great Spirit God. He had also seen the nihility ancestor Gu Huasha and the Emperor of Heaven bow their heads in submission. He knew that if he continued to be stubborn, his fate would be even more miserable than Fa Wuxian's, so he quickly changed his role. This scholarly is a disciple of the Confucian ancestor. He came out of seclusion to assist His Majesty in the imperial court. He is an upright and outspoken person, and he upholds the righteous path of the Confucian sect. He has done many things for His Majesty in the imperial court. Then how do you think we should deal with this person? Gu Chencha asked Zhang Ziren. Zhang Ziren pleaded, honest words are unpleasant to the ear. I feel that your Majesty should let this scholarly go. Is that so? That's fine. Gu Chencha turned to the Emperor of Heaven and said, Emperor of Heaven, what do you think we should do about this matter? On the first day of my ascension, this person actually said that I am not worthy of my position and cannot unify the human world. If it were you, what would you do? Exterminate his entire sect, execute his 10,000 clans, sever his bloodline, behead his descendants, and banish his soul to the 9 underworlds, never to reincarnate. The Emperor of Heaven said, Supreme authority cannot be blasphemed. The emperors of the human world are good at accepting advice. It is understandable to say that honest words are unpleasant to the ear because the emperors of the human world are human and have imperfections. Therefore, they need the advice of their subject. However, the Emperor of Heaven represents the truth and has no mistake. Right now, Your Majesty is the same. You represent the operation of the heavenly Tao and are supreme. Anyone who opposes you is going against the heavenly Tao. Since the situation is different, the way of doing things is also different. That's good. Gu Chencha nodded. Since that's the case, I'll leave this matter to you. Yes. The Emperor of Heaven flew out like a bat and grabbed Li Ruzi like he was grabbing a chick. Gu Chencha, you're going against the grain. It's only your first day as the Emperor, yet you dare to act like this? You're not a benevolent ruler, you're a devil. Li Ruzi refused to admit defeat. But as the Emperor of Heaven exerted force, his voice came to a screeching halt. Emperor of Heaven, it seems like you've completely submitted to me. Very good. Gu Chencha said, since that's the case, come forward and receive the conferment. Yes. The Emperor of Heaven killed the talkative Li Ruzi and knelt on the ground as he listened to Gu Chencha's conferment. I've re-established the Yonko and also conferred an ancestor. An ancestor is equivalent to a king. His position is illustrious, and he can handle matters for the imperial court. Gu Chencha said, originally, Wu Dankong called herself the ancestor of heaven, but she's just messing around. She doesn't know what her status is. Now, I will confer you the title of Ancestor of Heaven. Thank you, Your Majesty. The Emperor of Heaven quickly kowtowed. At this time, the Dharma Saint Spell Ancestor saw the situation and sighed. He knew that the situation was hopeless. Dharma Saint, why are you sighing? Gu Chencha turned his head and asked. I'm sighing. After so long, the cauldron has finally been settled, and you, Gu Chencha, have won. From now on, no one in the world will resist you. The Dharma saint wasn't afraid of death and spoke his mind. Very well. Will you submit or not? Gu Qinsha asked. People under eaves have no choice but to lower their heads. The Dharma saint said, I can only submit. That's good. Gu Qinsha waved his hand. Immediately, his original subjects, Lu Baiwei, Wen Hong, the martial saint, Zhuge Ye, Jin Suebua, and the others all arrived. The fourth, why are you doing this? After appearing, Lu Baiwei looked at Gu Huasha and said, after going around in a circle, we're back to square one. Hearing Lu Baiwei's words, the fourth Gu Huasha could only remain silent. The establishment of the Yonko, the unification of the human world, has only one goal. Gu Qinsha said, that is to let all living beings comprehend the key points of the dragonless mantra. Even the weakest of them, if they comprehend the key points of the dragonless mantra, they won't need to absorb any energy from the human world or even the universe. They can be self-sufficient and cultivate on their own, gradually developing their own spirit force. Qinsha, now even ordinary people can comprehend the key points of the dragonless mantra? Lu Baiwei said, your dragonless mantra has improved again. That's right. For example, if an ordinary person bitterly comprehended and cultivated, and suddenly comprehended the key points of the dragonless mantra, his strength wouldn't increase, but he wouldn't need to eat or drink, nor would he need to absorb spiritual energy. He wouldn't even need to rely on any materials in the myriad world. Just like that, he could continuously develop his spirit force and cultivate, finally achieving great result. Gu Qinsha said, in the past, my dragonless mantra was actually too profound for all living beings. Even Sky Origin Realm and Heaven Realm couldn't comprehend it. Moreover, the comprehension of this realm was completely based on a flash of inspiration, there was no pattern to be found. But now it's different, I have truly combed through the dragonless mantra and sorted out the pattern. As long as they cultivate according to this pattern, even ordinary people can comprehend it. If that's the case, I'm afraid the structure of the world will truly change. Lu Baiwei said. Right now, it's already starting to change. Gu Qinsha said, if everyone in the human world comprehended the dragonless mantra, then all living beings wouldn't be vermin, but the creators of the heaven and earth. They can use their spirit force to not only maintain their own survival, they can also continuously expand the heaven and earth. When everyone heard Gu Qinsha's words, they felt that a new era had truly arrived. The rules of the universe would all change. In the past, anyone who was born would be plundered and consumed. But now, if the dragonless mantra became the norm, then everyone who was born would contribute to the heaven and earth. If the world continued to develop like this, what kind of situation would it be? Chapter 10:13. Peace of heaven and earth, peace of heaven and earth, peace of heaven and earth, just like that. Gu Qinsha occupied the imperial court and changed the dynasty in public. No one dared to oppose it. Nihility ancestor Gu Huasha, Emperor Heaven, and human ancestor Zhang Ziren did not dare to oppose it. Devouring ancestor Fa Wuxian and the Great Spirit God had become two dogs, while Wan Senshi and Wu Dankong had become two horses. Sword ancestor Gu Tanjian and saber ancestor Gu Chongjian had become a saber and a sword. This kind of deterrence was extremely shocking in the hearts of the higher-ups. Although everyone had their own thoughts on the surface, they did not dare to casually resist Gu Qinsha. This was the effect that Gu Qinsha wanted. He increased the power of the human world, causing countless heroes to be born in the past 1,000 years. These powerful existences did things their own way, and in the chaos, they also created many civilizations and created many stories of sorrow and joy. The emotions of the whole human world gathered together and reached the limit. It was this kind of emotion that made Gu Qinsha complete the dragonless cultivation method and reach the 9th level of the immortal realm, the supreme immortal realm. because he had reached the 9th level of the immortal realm. He could almost play with any powerful beings at will. Even Gu Huasha and Emperor Heaven were in his control. They could not free themselves and could not resist at all. However, if that terrible thing was born, it would also have the power of the 9th level of the immortal realm. If the two of them fought, the world would be destroyed billions of times. At that time, everything would be gone. Only Gu Chensha and that terrible thing would be fighting, which was not what Gu Chensha needed. Therefore, Gu Chensha had to strengthen the human world, strengthen the universe, and protect all living beings. Now that he had unified the human realm, what he wanted to do was to hope that everyone would learn the Dragonless Heart Sutra, and then use this Heart Sutra to stimulate the great power within their hearts, and then feedback it to the human realm. There were countless living beings in the human world. If all of them learned the Dragonless cultivation method and gave it back to the human world, how strong would the human world be? At that time, even if Gu Chensha fought with that terrible thing, he could not destroy the human world. Moreover, the human world was created by Gu Chensha. In the past 1,000 years, he had completely changed and expanded the human world. The power of the human world was closely related to him. It was almost like a clone of him. In addition, it could be said that the human world was Gu Chensha's magic treasure, because the entire human world had been deeply branded by Gu Chensha. If the human world was completely changed, it would also increase Gu Chensha's resources. After everyone had learned the Dragonless cultivation method, no matter how high or low they would use their own spirit power to strengthen the human world. Then, Gu Chensha would truly achieve the 10th level of immortality, no immortality without existence. At that time, all living beings would be him, he would be all living beings, non-living beings would also be him, he would also be non-living beings. Everything that was tangible was him, invisible was also him, neither tangible nor invisible was also him. What existed was him, what didn't exist was also him, since it didn't exist, it wasn't that non-existent was also him. This realm was no immortality without existence. It was also the true realm. Gu Chensha finally found his direction. A wave of power spread out. The entire imperial palace began to change rapidly, becoming more magnificent by 1,000 times. Moreover, it entered a special spacetime. This spacetime folded into the infinite spacetime. This was Gu Chensha's transformation of the imperial palace, turning it into Yonko. He still continued the foundation of the word Yonko. The imperial palace has changed. In the capital, countless people were discussing spiritedly. At this time, countless messages were being transmitted, indicating that the illustrious imperial palace had changed into the imperial palace. The once illustrious human ancestor Zhang Ziren had become a vassal, and the true emperor had become Gu Chensha. In a restaurant, a large screen was being transmitted from the imperial palace. It was Zhang Ziren's speech. Everyone, I, Zhang Ziren, the human ancestor, will now voluntarily abdicate and become a vassal. The unparalleled emperor, the unparalleled ancestor, the unparalleled lord, Gu Chensha will become the lord of Yonko. The image of Zhang Ziren kowtowing to Gu Chensha was also being broadcasted. Now, the great Yong dynasty had long since become a combination of countless top-notch civilizations such as the immortal Tao civilization, the technological civilization, and the magical civilization. Here, all sorts of bizarre things could be found and all sorts of races could be found. The dynasty changed just like that? A few businessmen who were drinking were all surprised. There was no fight at all? Even the devouring ancestor Fa Wuxian has become a dog? Over the past 1,000 years, the ancestral devourer art of no immortals could be said to be the most ferocious character in the countless time-space, continents and timelines. He has devoured countless important figures, countries, and even continents. He's too ferocious. Being subdued and turned into a dog, he deserves it. One of the businessmen had a vague silhouette of a snake on his body. Clearly, he was a snake demon. But the demon race roamed everywhere, so it wasn't a big deal for them to take human form and do business with humans. Here, as long as they obeyed the law, they could do whatever they wanted. Look, this is the Imperial Palace's policy. Someone pointed to the huge screen in the restaurant. It says that the entire population will be promoting the dragonless cultivation art. No matter who it is, as long as they comprehend the essence of the dragonless cultivation art, they will be able to obtain whatever they want based on their contribution to the human realm. The method to comprehend the dragonless cultivation art, as well as the method to cultivate it, is also displayed on the screen. Hurry up and record it down, we'll start cultivating as well. To think that the dragonless cultivation art would be made public. It's rumored that as long as one truly comprehends the dragonless cultivation art, they won't need any external energy, and will be able to unleash a mighty spirit force from the depths of their soul. Once this spirit force is unleashed, it will never dry up. I heard that the Imperial Palace is preparing to select talents, and has set up a system. Look, they've divided the dragonless cultivation art into many different levels. Every time one advances a level, they will receive preferential treatment from the Imperial Palace. It's just like the imperial examinations of those backward dynasties. Let's observe the changes. I feel like this is a good chance to advance. Our cultivation is actually quite shallow. We have only reached Tao Realm 20 changes and haven't even reached God Realm. In many small places we would be considered important people, but here we are nothing. Here, God Realm and saints can only be servants. Sky Lord Realm is just a small position. The world is about to change, the news spread like the plague. At that moment, within the palace, Gu Chensha was holding a small meeting. He sat on the throne while Lu Baiyue sat beside him. The others were all standing, including Emperor of Heaven and Gu Huasha. The people in the meeting were all ancestors. Apart from Gu Chensha's own people, there were Emperor of Heaven, Gu Huasha, Spell Ancestor, Taoist Ancestor, Alien Ancestor, E-Ancestor, etc. Apart from that, even Destiny Ancestor and Reverse Ancestor were here. These two people were famous people in the past 1,000 years. Destiny Ancestor destroyed the 6 great countries and formed the Great Fate Dynasty. Reverse Ancestor destroyed Emperor of Heaven's Son of Destiny and became the main character. But the two of them met Gu Chensha. The two of them had thought that there was not much difference between them and Gu Chensha, but they did not expect that Gu Chensha would be able to casually send them into the cycle of reincarnation, letting them know how great the difference was. It was like a newborn facing a famous cultivator. At the same time, seeing Emperor of Heaven submit, Destiny Ancestor and Reverse Ancestor knew that the situation could not be reversed. At the same time, they also knew Gu Chensha's determination. For the sake of all living beings, he could use any method at this stage. Just look at Fa Wuxian and the Great Spirit God. Everyone, the order has been issued. Next, it is up to you to go to various places, to the billions of continents and space-time in the human world to spread the Dragonless Heart Sutra. At the same time, make them completely submit to our Yanko's rule. I believe that you will all be able to do well. Gu Chensha said, Destiny Ancestor. Your subordinate is here. Destiny Ancestor hurriedly stepped forward, not daring to be negligent. Our Great Fate Dynasty has now been completely reformed, becoming a continent of Yanko. This is all the information about our Great Fate Dynasty. Is there anything Your Majesty needs to improve? As he spoke, Destiny Ancestor handed over a booklet. It contained a huge amount of data, including the population, wealth, social class, officials, and countless other things of the Great Fate Dynasty. Gu Chensha did not look at it. He let Zhuge Ye and Jin Suebua hold it. Very good. The Great Fate Dynasty has done well. Your Majesty. The human ancestor, Zhang Ziren, said, "I've already notified the Confucianism ancestor to come and join us, but he completely ignored me. In fact, he's even joined forces with the other ancestors to attack us. He has left the Confucianism continent to contact many people, such as the ancestor of mercy, the ancestor of personal loyalty, the ancestor of wisdom, the ancestor of faith, the ancestor of loyalty, the ancestor of filial piety, the ancestor of frugality, the ancestor of justice, and the ancestor of purity. In addition, there are other ancestors in the human world who have also formed alliances, such as the evil ancestor, the ancestor of evil, the ancestor of evil, the ancestor of violence, the ancestor of sin, the ancestor of cruelty, the ancestor of evil, the ancestor of destruction, the ancestor of destruction, the ancestor of destruction, and the ancestor of destruction." "It really is the 3,000 ancestors," Gu Chunxia said. "It seems that if I want these ancestors to completely submit to me, I'll need a lot of tricks. Your Majesty's cultivation base allows you to resurrect and destroy the human world at will. As long as Your Majesty personally takes action, any ancestor who refuses to submit will die," said the reverse ancestor. He knew very well how powerful Gu Chunxia was. "If I have to do everything, then what's the point of having you?" Gu Chunxia looked around. "My original intention was to build a dynasty, and that was to constantly filter and refine. If I have to do everything, then I might as well just destroy the human world and spend a lot of time creating new races. If they aren't satisfied, then I'll just wipe them out and create them again. That way, I'll be able to create a perfect race." Chapter 10:14. Heavenly Tao Power, this subordinate is guilty. Reverse ancestor heard Gu Chenchia's unfriendly tone and quickly apologized. "Your Majesty, what should we do with Jiang Chuan? He's an immortal ancestor, and Your Majesty only told us to capture him. He's still imprisoned." At this time, Frost Jade Du came forward. Inside one of the cages was immortal ancestor Jiang Chuan's body. He wasn't willing to admit defeat, and was constantly circulating his power in an attempt to break out of the cage. "Jiang Chuan, you used to be a member of Yanko's tranquil immortal agency, but for the sake of power, you left Yanko and followed Emperor Heaven to become the lord of the immortal world. What do you have to say?" Gu Chunxia asked Jiang Chuan. "Gu Chunxia, the winner takes all and the loser takes all. That's my choice. I didn't think you'd reach this point, but I do have one thing to say. This Zhang Ziren was once a subject of Yanko, and then he betrayed you. Now that he's in power, I think you should treat him equally." Jiang Chuan said, as if he wanted to drag Zhang Ziren down with him. "Is that so?" "Zhang Ziren has submitted and made amends for his mistakes," said Gu Chunxia with a smile. "If that's the case, I'm willing to submit." Jiang Chuan said arrogantly. "You can't submit," Gu Chunxia said. "Why is that?" Jiang Chuan shouted loudly. "Gu Chunxia, if you want to unify the mortal world and make everyone submit to you, then you must set up a rule and treat everyone equally. Only in this way will all living beings in the world be convinced. Aren't you being narrow-minded by doing things according to your own preferences? How can you unify the world with such a breadth of mind? From what I can see, your current actions in dealing with Fa Wuxian, the Great Spirit God, Wan Senshi, and Wu Dankong are already venting your personal anger. In fact, you are even worse than some incapable rulers of dynasties. Some rulers will even put their officials in important positions, but you are humiliating them to the extreme. You have changed. In the past, in the celestial Middle-earth, you were extremely magnanimous. Even those who rebelled, you did not kill them. You only demoted them to ordinary people. But now you're practically going against the trend. From this, I can deduce that it's very likely that you've been infected by that terrifying thing. Either that, or your dragonless heart sutra has walked on a crooked path. Those rulers you speak of are all small characters among the common people. Right now, His Majesty represents the absolute truth. He has changed the structure of the world, and all the previous rules will be subverted. Emperor of Heaven said, "Now, Jiang Chuan, you must keep in mind that His Majesty's actions are the absolute truth and cannot be questioned. As long as you follow His Majesty's will, you will transcend and achieve the great freedom that has never been achieved since ancient times." Emperor of Heaven, I originally thought that you were a man of iron bones. I didn't expect you to be such a spineless coward. Could it be that in this world, there is no one who can go against Gu Chensha and protect the order? Jiang Chuan let out a long roar. Zhuge, this Jiang Chuan is the lord of the immortal world. In that case, turn him into an immortal beast and make him your mount. In the blink of an eye, Gu Chensha turned Jiang Chuan into a celestial bull. His nose was pierced by a rope, and he was now in Zhuge Ye's hands. Your Majesty, there are other people like Patriarch Yao Sha, Lord of the Sun and Moon Patriarch Radiance Hua Mingsha, as well as Hua Misha. They were all created by Ancestor of Heaven, said Yu Huanlu. There's no need to bring them here. Gu Chensha waved his hand. Ancestor of Heaven, he said to Emperor of Heaven, these people were created by you. What do you think of them now? These people are all one-track minded. Rather than keeping them alive, it's better to kill them. Rest assured, Your Majesty, I will take care of this matter. The Emperor of Heaven was very considerate. There's no need to kill them. After all, you've painstakingly created them. Just turn them into immortal beasts and give them to those who have performed meritorious deeds as mounts. Gu Chensha said, the rules from now on are actually very simple. Those who oppose us and don't listen to our orders will be punished by becoming our mount. Yes. The Emperor of Heaven did not dare to object and could only agree. The Ancestor of Mercy, the Ancestor of Personal Loyalty, the Ancestor of Reason, the Ancestor of Wisdom, the Ancestor of Faith, the Ancestor of Loyalty, the Ancestor of Filial Piety, the Ancestor of Chastity, the Ancestor of Justice, the Ancestor of Purity, and the Confucianism Ancestor have formed an alliance. Who will convince them to join us and change their minds? What do you say, Nihility Ancestor, Emperor of Heaven? These people do have some tricks up their sleeves. If they help govern heaven and earth, and spread the Dragonless Heart Sutra, then the Dragonless Heart Sutra will spread much faster. These people were actually created by me. They obtained their achievements because of the fortuitous encounter I gave them. If I simply killed them, it would be a waste of my own efforts. It's like a disobedient son in the family. It's best for the parents to educate them. They can't just kill them for being disobedient, right? We'll go convince them immediately. The fourth Nihility Ancestor Gu Huasha and the Emperor of Heaven nodded. After that, the two of them left, vanishing without a trace. What do you say, Dharma Saint? Gu Chensha said, looking at the Dharma Saint. From your expression, it seems you don't agree? You helped Emperor of Heaven establish the laws, and then you helped Zhang Ziran manage the imperial court. Do you have any suggestions or help for the transformation of heaven and earth, and for everyone to learn the Dragonless Heart Sutra? I actually don't recommend that everyone learn the Dragonless Heart Sutra, because it will lead to a lack of order in heaven and earth. Think about it. In this world, people have to rely on others, rely on things. Only when there are needs can there be rules and order and laws exist. If there are no needs, then there is no need to rely on external things, and there is no need to abide by any order. In this way, the existence of laws would have no meaning. The Dharma Saint said, Gu Chensha, the reason why I've always opposed you is because of this. Because if your ideals are achieved, then my existence would have no meaning. Dharma Saint, you're wrong about this. The meaning of laws is to regulate people's behavior, to ensure order, and not to cause chaos. If everyone is free, and no one needs external things, then the law would have reached the highest realm, reaching a realm where there is no other. This is also an opportunity for you to advance. This is the meaning of the existence of laws. Gu Chensha waved his hand. You've opposed me many times, but I haven't made a move against you because of this reason. And Jing Qiu, don't you think so? Gu Chensha, you're really powerful. I was suppressed by you from start to finish, and didn't have the slightest chance. Jing Qiu said helplessly, back in the celestial Middle Earth, I kept fighting with you. At first, we were evenly matched, but then it became one-sided. Now, even if I'm millions and millions of times more powerful, I'm still not a match for you. So, I've already given up all hope. Moreover, I want to see just how far you can go, because the world is no longer the same, and the heavenly Tao is no longer the same. Maybe we can all obtain eternity. Very well. As long as you work for me, I can give you true eternity. Gu Chensha said, actually, you've become ancestors, and you're in between level 7 and level 8 of immortal. That's not true eternity. If you encounter some tribulation, you might die. That's the only way. Jing Qiu lowered his head. Today's meeting will end here. Next, I want to see the result. First, the Imperial Court will promote the Dragonless Heart technique. Everyone can study it. Gu Chensha said, now you can go. Yes. Everyone retreated. At the same time, the Nihility ancestor Gu Huasha and the Emperor of Heaven had arrived at a very distant place in the mortal world. This place could be said to be another world. There were huge planets connected to each other, forming another universe. On those planets there were green mountains and clear waters, and the sound of reading could be heard everywhere. Numerous academies had risen up from the ground, and countless countries existed. There are billions of planets in this universe, each with billions of people, divided into many countries. However, this universe is peaceful. Everyone studies, learning Confucian principles, benevolence, righteousness, propriety, wisdom, trust, loyalty, filial piety, and chastity. This is the universe created by the Confucian ancestor, the ancestor of mercy, the ancestor of personal loyalty, and the others. Look, everyone studies, and the prefectural princes govern their countries. Gradually the truth is born. The Emperor of Heaven pointed at the universe. Look, the origin of the universe has begun to give birth to the truth. That's how powerful it is. The Confucian ancestor and the others know how powerful it is. Those people have some skill, Gu Huasha said. With the truth, they can do many world-shaking things. Emperor of Heaven, Gu Chensha wants us to subjugate them. What do you think? This is a test from Gu Chensha, the Emperor of Heaven said. Gu Huasha, deep in your heart, you have a lot of unwillingness, don't you? People under eaves have no choice but to bow their heads. If we don't submit, we'll end up like Fa Wuxian. We can't let that happen to us. Gu Chensha is vicious and merciless. He can do anything he wants. We have no choice but to bow our heads. Of course, that doesn't mean we don't have a chance. When that terrifying thing is born, the mortal world will expand again, and countless experts will be born. At that time, there will be as many Heaven Dao experts as there are now. The fourth, Gu Huasha, said. Actually, if we combine our powers, we can reach the Heaven Dao level. But that won't be of any use to Gu Chensha. We have to endure. But what about the ancestors? If I'm not mistaken, they're working together to create the truth. That's the power of the Heaven Dao level. If I'm not mistaken, they're working together to form the Heaven Dao. That's what they're relying on to fight against Gu Chensha. It's very likely that the two of us won't be able to subjugate so many ancestors. The Emperor of Heaven said. Chapter 10:15. It's all selfish. Everyone, come out and meet me. The Emperor of Heaven didn't wait for the fourth to calculate how many ancestors there were. He just sent out a psychic wave. The psychic wave spread to every corner of the universe, startling countless powerful beings. This universe had been created by many ancestors for many years, and it was already very powerful. But the Emperor of Heaven's power wasn't to be underestimated, either. It was enough to shake the very essence of the universe. Emperor of Heaven, you should welcome me from afar, but you're all enemies now. At that moment, a shadow appeared. The shadow condensed into a person holding a book. He gave off a strong Confucian aura. He was a middle-aged man with a long beard. He was the Confucian ancestor. Confucianism ancestor, where are the other ancestors? Why don't you come out? The Emperor of Heaven asked. Celestial Emperor, have you also succumbed to Gu Chench's tyranny? But we can't be subdued by force, and we can't be corrupted by riches and honor. So, there's no point in trying to convince us to surrender. The Confucian ancestor said, the two of you are powerful, but it's a pity that you aren't united. Also, with so many ancestors working together, we can already unleash the power of the heavenly Tao realm. Even if the two of you forcefully suppress it, it's useless. Confucian ancestor, you're one of the most powerful ancestors born in the past 1,000 years. However, you should also know that you shouldn't touch a rock with an egg. Gu Chench's current strength isn't something you can handle. Even if you join forces and unleash the power of the heavenly way, it'll be useless. The fourth brother, Guasha, said, but now that you people have worked so hard to create this universe and spread benevolence, righteousness, and morality in this universe, all kinds of principles are brewing in the hearts of the people, becoming the truth. This is the power of heavenly Tao. But this power isn't stable, it's still in its infancy. If this universe expands for another few thousand years, tens of thousands of years, or even hundreds of millions of years, then this power of heavenly Tao will truly stabilize, but it's still useless. To put it bluntly, even if all of you become heavenly Tao and join forces, you won't be a match for Guasha. He's already far stronger than the Heaven Tao. You're scared out of your wits, the Confucianism ancestor said, laughing. Nihility ancestor, you're the number one ancestor of all. You have the ultimate glory, but you're actually someone who bullies the weak and fears the strong. For the sake of righteousness, what harm is there in dying? We're not afraid of dying, but you are. If the Confucian Tao of Confucianism feared death, then it wouldn't be a true Confucian. It's not a question of whether or not I'm afraid of dying. Gu Huasha waved his hand dismissively. If you want to die, it'll be very difficult. But I'm not going to waste words with you. Will you surrender or not? If you don't, you'll be in big trouble. What? You and the Emperor of Heaven want to fight me? The Confucianism ancestor didn't seem the least bit afraid. To tell you the truth, in a one-on-one fight, I wouldn't be a match for you. But do you know how many ancestors we have here? Stop hiding. Come out, the Emperor of Heaven said, waving his hand. Rumble. The entire universe trembled. Then, lumps of light people appeared, and finally, they all revealed their bodies. Ancestor of mercy, ancestor of personal loyalty, ancestor of wisdom, ancestor of faith, ancestor of loyalty, ancestor of filial piety, ancestor of respect, ancestor of justice, ancestor of purity, ancestor of etiquette, ancestor of courage, ancestor of lien, ancestor of one, ancestor of harmony, ancestor of da, ancestor of virtue, ancestor of zhen, ancestor of ji, ancestor of gong, ancestor of jing, ancestor of might, ancestor of fierce, ancestor of blaze, ancestor of liang, ancestor of kindness, ancestor of kindness, ancestor of compassion, ancestor of sorrow, ancestor of warmth, ancestor of shun, ancestor of love, and ancestor of peace. 35 voices rang out at the same time. Including the Confucianism ancestor, there were a total of 36 ancestors. The 36 patriarchs were all people who focused on positive emotions, and when they joined forces, they filled the universe with positive emotions. Young, righteous, awe-inspiring, they filled heaven and earth, and their auras seemed to break through all limits, shatter all time, and converge to form the power of the Tao of heaven. When the 36 patriarchs joined forces with the universe, their power caused the Emperor of Heaven and Gu Huasha's faces to flicker. "So powerful," Gu Huasha said, his expression flickering. "I thought I stood at the pinnacle, but never could I have imagined that there would be people who could stand up to me, especially some of you. For example, the human ancestor and the ancestor of justice. Although they aren't as strong as me, they're second only to me in terms of power. I have no idea how they practice cultivation to reach such a level. It's hard to imagine. Other than the Confucianism ancestor, there's also the ancestor of love. I can sense that the ancestor of love has a mysterious power inside of him. The power of love can explode out in a way that transcends the truth. It's a type of psychic power, similar to the Dragonless Heart Sutra." The Emperor of Heaven was also examining the chi flow. "The ancestor of love's destiny is faintly discernible," the Emperor of Heaven said. "Although he's not very strong in the river of fate, I can sense that he's hiding his true power." Not daring to be negligent, the Emperor of Heaven said, "Ladies and gentlemen, if we join forces, wouldn't we be afraid of Gu Chensha? Wouldn't we be afraid of the Yonko?" "The way I see it, Gu Chensha isn't strong enough to do anything about the truth. He can't do anything about benevolence, righteousness, and morality. He can't do anything about loyalty, filial piety, chastity, or justice and compassion." Nihility ancestor, Emperor of Heaven, the Confucianism ancestor said, "You need to know your limits. Under no circumstances can you become an accomplice to Gu Chensha. If you do, you'll be consigned to eternal damnation. Remember, we will never be exterminated. You're looking down on Gu Chensha too much." The Nihility ancestor, the fourth Gu Huasha, suddenly laughed. "But we're not here to kill you. We're here to show you Gu Chensha's power." "Ha ha! I know you don't truly want to follow Gu Chensha," the ancestor of love said. The ancestor of love was a young man, roughly 20 years old. He had rosy lips and white teeth, and he exuded a youthful aura. His body brimmed with passion and youthfulness. Anyone who looked at him would feel boundless motivation and power. No negative emotions could shake him. This was the power of the ancestor of love. "Ancestor of love, what do you have to say?" Emperor of Heaven said. "You too, we can temporarily rely on Gu Chensha," the ancestor of love said. "Ancestor of love, you." The Confucianism ancestor, ancestor of mercy, and the others cried out in disbelief. "Everyone, please calm down. That's not what I meant." The ancestor of love waved his hand. "I will never submit to Gu Chensha, but we have no choice but to feign civility. Gu Chensha can no longer be measured by human emotions. He doesn't have good or evil, love or hate, and he doesn't have any emotions. We can't even figure out his realm. If we resist, he'll definitely make us suffer a fate worse than death, and it'll be an eternal torture. There's no need for us to take this loss. I believe that not long from now, he'll meet his doom. At that time, it'll be our best chance. Then, according to the ancestor of love, what should we do?" Emperor of Heaven wanted to observe. "Celestial Tharch already knows, so why do you still ask?" The ancestor of love waved his hand. "You two already have a plan. In the future, if you two join forces, you can even absorb the will of that thing that can arrange things. At that time, you two will combine and become the strongest existence. At that time, you can compete with Gu Chensha. I know this. You two are the most dangerous existences around Gu Chensha, but Gu Chensha doesn't care. He seems to have a plan. We can't escape Gu Chensha's river of fate, and we can't threaten him at all. So, we can only submit now. Moreover, Gu Chensha spreading the dragonless mantra is also an opportunity for us. If we can follow him and let everyone in our universe learn the dragonless mantra, it'll be a great nourishment for us. The dragonless mantra can't control people's thoughts. The Nihility ancestor, the fourth Gu Huasha, said. I've studied it for many years. Even if you successfully cultivate the dragonless mantra, you'll only sever your karma with all living things in heaven and earth, time and space. It won't change your original heart. For example, even if I successfully cultivate the dragonless mantra, I still don't agree with Gu Chencha's ideals. So, you can cultivate the dragonless mantra and comprehend its mysteries to increase your strength. Right now, Gu Chencha doesn't want you to change your thoughts and become his slaves. Gu Chencha's actions don't conform to our ideals. He definitely can't unify the human world. But in the future, a Lord of all things will definitely appear. But it's up to our Confucian sect to choose. Only those who conform to our ideals can become the Lord of all things. Those who don't have such moral character. The Confucian ancestor said. Right now, Gu Chencha is very powerful. We really can't go against him. Can we only endure humiliation and live without purpose? That is indeed the case. The Emperor of Heaven said. If you submit to him, you can gain quite a bit of status in the imperial court. We can form our own forces, and we can protect ourselves and keep them in check. In many dynasties and civilizations, the Confucian sect isn't a rebel, but a balancer. Isn't that your ideal? You've hit the nail on the head. The Confucian ancestor's heart skipped a beat. Our ideal isn't to rebel. If a tyrannical ruler appears, we will keep them in check. That is the true path. From what I can see, other than the older generation, the land of Yonko is only temporarily submitting to Gu Chencha's tyranny. For example, the Spell Ancestor, the Taoist Ancestor, and even Fa Wuxian and the Great Spirit God. These people can all be used. From the Confucian ancestor's point of view, while Fa Wuxian had suffered unprecedented humiliation, his hatred for Gu Chencha had also increased. And this hatred could be used. Chapter 10:16. The First Formation of the Imperial Court. Chapter 1013. The first formation of the Imperial Court. Fa Wuxian really is miserable. He's a laughingstock, and he's suffering day and night. He can't even live or die. I heard that not only did Gu Chencha turn him into a dog, but he also ordered his subordinates to burn him with godfire, freeze him with ice, and stab his heart with swords. He's in extreme pain, but his hatred is increasing every day. That's something we can use to our advantage. The goddess of love seemed to have a card up her sleeve. She seemed to have a very deep plan. Even if Fa Wuxian escapes, he probably won't be able to hurt Gu Chencha, the Emperor of Heaven said. Of course it'll be difficult, but by then, we'll have reached the Tao of Heaven level, the goddess of love said. The goddess of love said, all of us have ascended to the heavenly Tao plane. If we unite, we will be thousands of times more powerful than we are now. That terrible thing has also been born. Our greatest opportunity has come. In short, the future will be a time of chaos. In chaos, we will have a chance to reach the heavenly Tao plane, or even surpass it, and finally achieve true eternity. That's true. Gu Chencha might be strong now, but he might not be strong in the future. There's no such thing as an eternal protagonist. The Confucianism ancestor said. If that's the case, we'll temporarily submit to his despotic power. We'll form a force in the imperial court. Once that force is formed, he won't be able to do anything. That's right. As long as Gu Chencha wants to form a court, he'll want all living beings in the world to learn the Dragonless Heart Sutra. He won't be able to do anything to us. In fact, now that we're in the imperial court, we'll be like the officials of the previous dynasties who formed a faction to fight against the emperor. The Confucianism ancestor said. But then again, Fa Wuxian isn't a good person. He's the ancestor of devouring. Wherever he goes, he devours everything. We have to be on guard against him devouring us after he escapes. He's a mad dog, and he bites people everywhere he goes. In fact, it makes sense for Guchensha to turn him into a dog. Everyone thought about it and realized that it was indeed the case. After Fa Wuxian completed the devouring Dao, he became a mad dog that went around biting and eating people. No one was willing to get along with him because anyone who did get along with him would be devoured. In the past 1,000 years, there were countless people who hated Fa Wuxian. Actually, now that Gu Chensha was treating Fa Wuxian this way, many people were cheering in their hearts. For example, Reverse Ancestor and Destiny Ancestor. Alright, let's form an alliance. Emperor of Heaven and Gu Huasha said, apart from that, you are also the Justice League and the Unholy Alliance. We need to rope you in as well. That alliance is extremely evil. There are many ancestors within, all of them vicious and evil individuals. They're very difficult to deal with. The Confucian ancestor said, for example, the evil ancestor, the Li ancestor, the violent ancestor, the sinful ancestor, the cruel ancestor, the evil 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 ancestor, the cruel ancestor, the evil ancestor, the evil ancestor, the evil ancestor, the cruel ancestor, the evil 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 ancestor, the blood ancestor, the flesh ancestor. In the face of such tyrannical power, these ancestors can only bow their heads. Emperor of Heaven and Gu Huasha said, disregarding everything else, Gu Chensha will still reward those who contribute and punish those who commit crimes. If we can really subdue the Unholy Alliance and make them submit to Gu Chensha, then we will be able to obtain many benefits. We might even be able to obtain some heavenly power from him. Heavenly power? The Confucianism ancestor and ancestor of love both said in shock, we have created this universe, constantly brewing, constantly guiding living beings, finally allowing the universe to give birth to a trace of pure heavenly power. If Gu Chensha can casually create heavenly power, that would be too terrifying. Probably not. Ren Zhu said, the power of the heavenly Tao is invincible, it is currently the highest level of power. If it could be created at will, then we would have no chance of resisting him. Moreover, from the looks of it, he is actually trying to unify the human realm, spreading the Dragonless Heart Sutra, just like us. He is brewing even more heavenly Tao power. If you think that, then you are gravely mistaken. Gu Huasha said, if my guess is correct, Gu Chensha has already cultivated the strongest secret art. His power has reached the 9th level of the undying realm. This realm surpasses the heavenly power. What? Everyone was shocked. This kind of power far surpasses the heavenly power. Then how can we deal with him? We can only endure. Emperor of Heaven said, endure what others can't. While these people were discussing, suddenly, an evil voice came from outside the universe. Evil ancestor has come to pay a visit. Oh, speak of something, and here it comes. Gu Huasha smiled and casually waved his hand. Instantly, a power broke through the universe and brought in an evil and powerful aura. Seeing this, the faces of Confucianism ancestor and the others changed. This meant that Nihility ancestor Gu Huasha had the ability to invade their universe. This universe was a universe that the 36 ancestors had painstakingly built for 1,000 years. Although only 1,000 years had passed in the human world, hundreds of millions of years had passed in this universe. In these hundreds of millions of years, Countless living beings were born, and gradually, the heavenly power was born in this universe. Therefore, they attached great importance to this universe. Not a single bit of damage could be allowed. Once it was damaged, it was the same as 1,000 years of hard work being wasted. Therefore, when the evil ancestor came in, everyone wanted to suppress the evil ancestor and fuse it with the origin of the universe, so that the universe could be strengthened again. The evil ancestor appeared. He didn't look evil at all. He looked like a young scholar, but behind him, there were many faint traces of the origin of evil. Destruction, annihilation, extremes, all of them appeared. Greetings, Nihility Ancestor and Emperor of Heaven. After entering this universe, the evil ancestor frowned, as if he wasn't used to the righteousness of this universe. This was extremely inconsistent with his origin, but the evil ancestor was well behaved, and he was extremely respectful to Emperor of Heaven and Gu Huasha. Evil ancestor, are you here on behalf of the Evil Alliance, or on your own? Emperor of Heaven asked. Of course I'm here on behalf of the Evil Alliance. With such a big thing happening in the human world, we have no choice but to seriously consider our future. In truth, we are the representatives of negative emotions, but the evil deeds we've done over the years aren't even half of what Fa Wuxian has done. The evil ancestor said, Fa Wuxian's evil deeds are to devour continents and destroy space-time after space-time in the universe. Compared to us, his evil deeds are far greater. Actually, it's only natural that he's fallen to this state. However, we don't want to end up like this, so we can only rely on Gu Chensha. However, we still have a question, and that is, Gu Chensha won't actually allow us to do evil. He might accept the Confucian sect's people, but will he accept us from the Evil Alliance? If he doesn't accept us, we'll have to think of another way. After all, we can't just sit and wait for death. Don't worry about that, Gu Huasha said. The world is dark and dark. If there's good, then there's evil. If everything was good, then this world wouldn't exist. If my guess is correct, after you rely on him, Gu Chensha will combine your universes. Good will be mixed with evil, and evil will be mixed with good. This way, it will stimulate your power to increase. If Gu Chensha makes a move against us, I hope that His Excellency the Emperor of Heaven and Gu Huasha will work together for us. We can work together to increase the power of the Tao of Heaven. What do you think? The evil ancestor knew the rules very well. That's not a problem. We still have a long way to go in the imperial court. It's not something that can be done overnight. Gu Huasha said to the evil ancestor. Good. Then I can make the decision right now to accept the enlistment and enter the imperial court. The evil ancestor was actually very afraid. He was terrified. Fa Wuxian's ferocity was far above his. Even the alliance of evil had to be on guard against Fa Wuxian's devouring at all times. But Gu Chensha had turned him into a dog. He knew that Gu Chensha couldn't go against him, or he would suffer a fate worse than death. But as the evil ancestor, he had done all sorts of evil. He was afraid that Gu Chensha would punish him, so he first went to the Nihility Ancestor and the Emperor of Heaven to test the waters. Emperor of Heaven and the Nihility Ancestor were Gu Chensha's greatest enemies. But now that Gu Chensha had chosen to forgive them, it meant that the evil ancestor could be forgiven as well. There's absolutely no problem with this. You can even enter the imperial court to discuss political affairs. But you must be careful. There are some extremely evil things that you must never do. Otherwise, you might end up like Fa Wuxian. Gu Huasha warned. Confucianism ancestor, what do you think? Emperor of Heaven asked. To tell you the truth, I want to destroy the League of Evil. But since we're all officials of the imperial court, we naturally have to use the power of the imperial court to fight it out. Since that's the case, we naturally have to use the power of the imperial court to fight. If we can reform you, then our cultivation bases will truly break through the limits, allowing our power to reach the heavenly Tao realm. Confucianism ancestor was actually eyeing the League of Evil like a tiger watching its prey. He wanted to use things like justice and etiquette to reform evil and violence. This represented a clash of origins, and if he succeeded, he would naturally break through to the next realm. In that case it's settled, Gu Huasha said. 3 days later, Gu Chunsha was in the imperial palace when he received a joint memorial from the Emperor of Heaven and Gu Huasha. Good. Very good. After reading the memorial, Gu Chunsha said, "You have the 36 Confucian ancestors and the League of Evil merged together to form a new universe. In that universe, the two great powers will be in conflict with each other, and both sides will have to increase their own strength. Therefore, under the pressure of survival, they will do their best to comprehend the Dragonless Heart Sutra. Not bad." Chapter 10:17. Falling Behind. You're right, Your Majesty. The merging of the two universes will result in a clash of ideals. In order to prevent the other from destroying us, we must work hard to understand the Dragonless Heart Sutra, Emperor of Heaven said. Other than these two, what about the other forces? Gu Chunsha said. How are you going to deal with them? Other than that, you need to pay attention to something else. Soon, someone will break through to the heavenly Tao realm. Break through to the heavenly Tao realm? Emperor of Heaven and Gu Huasha were startled. Both of them were at the 8th level of the immortal realm, but they had yet to step into the heavenly Tao realm. In other words, they were still in the heavenly realm. In the entire mortal dimension and even the various spacetimes, their strength was only inferior to Gu Chunsha. If one were to say who had the greatest hope of breaking through to the heaven's way, then it would definitely be these two. If Gu Chunsha didn't appear, then the mortal dimension would definitely be the world of these two. But now, Gu Chunsha said that someone would break through to the heavenly Tao realm faster than them. Didn't that mean they were falling behind? It was fine if Gu Chunsha was riding on top of them, but now there was someone else who was riding on top of them. This was intolerable. Actually, if I didn't imprison Fa Wuxian, he would have broken through to the heavenly Tao realm very soon. Gu Chunsha looked at Emperor of Heaven and Gu Huasha, knowing what they were thinking. The fourth, are you unhappy? You and Emperor of Heaven are indeed the protagonists of an era, but it's not your era now. If you can't accept this reality, you'll fall behind even more. There's nothing you can do about it. Then what should we do now? Emperor of Heaven asked humbly. It's very simple. Give up all other thoughts and wholeheartedly help me manage the human world. Let countless living beings comprehend the Dragonless Mantra. This way, your strength will be greatly improved, and advancing to the heavenly Tao realm won't be a difficult thing. Gu Chunsha said, Go ahead. Your Majesty, we'll take our leave. The fourth and the Emperor of Heaven hurriedly left. Chunsha, the fourth and the Emperor of Heaven are actually at the highest level in the entire universe, second only to you. However, they are unable to break through to the heavenly Tao realm. Who could be so powerful to actually surpass them? At this time, Lu Baiwe walked out. Her cultivation had also reached the edge, but it seemed that she was stuck at a bottleneck, unable to break through. Therefore, she knew very well how difficult it was to break through to the heavenly Tao realm. Walk the right path. Gu Chunsha stretched out his hand and two huge universes appeared in front of him. These two universes, one righteous and the other evil, were the righteous universe and the evil universe formed by the Confucian ancestor, the ancestor of justice and the others. These two universes began to combine under the influence of a huge force, and they rotated non-stop, which led to killings and disputes in these universes, just like the collision of righteous and evil. The time of these two universes was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, hundreds and thousands of years had passed. Among them, righteous and evil were entangled, killing each other, and there were also people who fused with each other, and men and women fell in love with each other. Who knew how many stories of separation and reunion were played out? Gradually, in these two universes, countless fate energy was born, and among them, some people's fate energy was like shining stars, shining brightly in the universe. These people's fate energy was full, and it came from the spirit and the depths of their hearts. It was pure spiritual power, and not a trace of external force was used. These people comprehended the Dragonless Heart Sutra in the midst of battle, Gu Chensha said. Their cultivation levels might not be very high, but they were already self-sufficient, and could develop the power of the heart and soul, and advance step by step. Furthermore, they gave something to the entire world. You mean to say that heavenly Tao-level people will be born from this universe? But the righteous universe and the evil universe are indeed very big, and when the two collide and fuse, they can give birth to very strong existences, but to surpass the Emperor of Heaven and the Fourth, it is still impossible. You must know that the Emperor of Heaven and the Fourth have actually cultivated the Dragonless Heart Sutra, and they can also give birth to great power from the depths of their hearts. Lu Baiwe said. It's not that simple. Gu Chensha said. In fact, after comprehending the Dragonless Heart Sutra, if you want to continue to progress, you must change your own way of thinking. In the past, our way of training was to constantly absorb energy from the outside world, and even use the power of sacrifice to refine immortality. But as long as you comprehend the Dragonless Heart Sutra, you must immediately abandon this way of thinking. Training is no longer about absorbing, but about giving and offering. The reason why the Fourth and the Emperor of Heaven could not progress is because they still have a fixed way of thinking, and did not give more to the world. The reason why my cultivation is above them is actually very simple. It is because I first spent 100 years to pour my own power into the human world, and created countless fortuitous encounters, causing the human world's origin to expand, and then I spent another 1,000 years to once again offer my own power, pouring it into the human world. So my cultivation can reach the current realm. So that's how it is. Lu Baiwe suddenly understood. However, there are actually drawbacks. For example, you have created countless fortuitous encounters, but the recipients of these fortuitous encounters are not your people, and most of them are even going against you. Some even want to replace you and want to kill you. This is equivalent to me offering myself to the world, but creating one ingrate after another. No one is willing to do that. So, the Emperor of Heaven and the Fourth are unable to progress. Actually, there is no secret to my cultivation. If I can do it, then I can do it. If I can't, then I will never be able to break through that layer of mental barrier. If the Fourth and the Emperor of Heaven are willing to pour their power into the human world, just like me, in these 1,000 years, if they wholeheartedly offer themselves to create, they would have long since broken through the heavenly Tao realm. Gu Chensha shook his head. Then I will start to pour my power into the human world's origin, causing it to expand, and giving birth to many fortuitous encounters. No matter who the recipient of the fortuitous encounter is, and whether or not they will oppose me, I will still do it. Lu Baiwe said, Actually, I have always had a psychological barrier. I am afraid that after creating a fortuitous encounter, if it is obtained by someone, it will be implicated by karma, and then the guest will become the host, and the future will be incomparably miserable. Indeed, there is a problem in this aspect. Gu Chensha said, for example, if you pour your power into the human world and give birth to a fortuitous encounter, and that fortuitous encounter is obtained by someone else, then that person will have a karma connection with you. In the future, you will definitely be entangled with him. If you can't deal with this entanglement, then you will be killed and devoured by that person. I think this is also the reason why the Emperor of Heaven and the Fourth don't dare to take such a risk. But they don't know that this will make them progress. They will constantly create powerful existences to resist them, and then they will eliminate the karma and karma. This is the driving force. Without this tempering, how can they progress? Reaching this realm is actually very simple. The universe is like a pond, and you are the big fish in the pond. If you want to make progress, then what should you do? Keep expanding the pond, and after the pond is enlarged, you will have more space to grow. But when you expand the pond, there will definitely be other fish that will share your achievements, which will become a threat to you. But you can't not expand the pond just because of this threat. That's the reason. At this time, Lu Baiwei completely understood why Gu Chunsha did this. Because the entire universe had seriously restricted his development and progress, so he was expanding the universe, and he was also calling all living beings to expand the universe. This was the true essence of the dragonless heart technique. The true core of it. Woo woo woo. Lu Baiwei's body moved slightly, and immediately poured her power into the void. Immediately, she came in contact with the origin of the human world. Then, she poured all her power into the origin, and the entire origin began to become restless. After a day and a night, suddenly, somewhere in the human world, the origin digested Lu Baiwei's input, and a fortuitous encounter was born. This fortuitous encounter landed on a certain continent, on a certain person's body. As for Lu Baiwei, she did not feel any exhaustion from the injection of power. On the contrary, she felt that her cultivation was improving rapidly, and the power of her mind was becoming purer. Even her breathing seemed to be a lot smoother. It was as if she was originally living in a narrow cave, but now that the cave had expanded, there was more space for her to stretch out. Naturally, she lived a lot more comfortably. At this time, she realized how correct Gu Chencha's theory was. Right now, she was no longer an absorber, but a pioneer. Heaven and earth bound her, and she was the one who expanded the world. Every breath she took, every action she took, she was creating a new world. She was using her heart to change everything. Therefore, she kept pouring power into her body, and began a deep level of cultivation. Gu Chunsha nodded. This principle was right there, but many people didn't understand it, and they didn't do it. Gu Chunsha took the lead, and he did it in a big way, so he walked at the front. He looked at the fusion of the righteous universe and the evil universe. After the two universes fused, they became extremely vast, and when the two universes fused, the power of the heaven kept surging, and then it seemed to overlap with someone. In other words, a heaven-level expert was going to be born in this universe. Very good, the birth of the first heaven-level expert is very significant. Gu Chunsha nodded. Even the Emperor of Heaven and the Fourth can't reach the heaven level. If because of my policy that person can reach the heaven level, then everyone will follow my policy. The human realm will expand to an extremely large extent. As he spoke, he directly entered the huge universe. Chapter 10:18. Creating a heavenly Tao at the foot of a mountain that towered into the clouds, Zhao Jiangshan's entire body was covered with wounds as he quietly lay next to a spring. His wounds were shocking to see. There were saber wounds, wounds from lightning and fire attacks, and his entire body was scorched black. There was also an extremely poisonous aura. The rocks that he was lying on had been corroded by the poison on his body. With such serious injuries, he should have died, but Zhao Jiangshan was still alive. He struggled to his feet, and like a walking corpse, he slowly circulated a mental cultivation technique within his body. Instantly, a majestic power was born within his body, which violently cleansed his body. Before long, his body was as clean as new. After that, the power seeped into the surrounding rocks, mountains, and spring water. Instantly, the rocks, mountains, and spring water were filled with spiritual energy, which could nourish everything. The fish in the spring water all developed intelligence, and some even developed cultivation bases. In addition, with him as the center, many spirit medicines were born in the forest within a radius of several li. There were 1,000-year-old Lingji mushrooms, 10,000-year-old ginseng, blood dragon grass, cinnabar fruits, and so on. All of them automatically grew, turning the forest into something like a blessed land. Before long, the entire forest was transformed, and Zhao Jiangshan climbed to his feet. His cultivation base had increased by a lot, and he was instantly in high spirits. The dragonless mental cultivation technique is truly profound. It doesn't absorb energy from the outside world, but rather, it's a great power born from my own heart and soul. In addition, if I want to progress with the dragonless mental cultivation technique, I have to unleash my own spirit power to make the world more beautiful and filled with spiritual energy. Ever since I comprehended the dragonless mental cultivation technique, I've basically gained an indestructible body. No one can kill me. That Gu Churnsha is really amazing, to actually be able to create such a heaven-changing mental cultivation technique. However, sooner or later, I, Zhao Jiangshan, will become a major figure that will attract the attention of the world. Zhao Jiangshan was a young man, and he looked to be about 17 or 18 years old. He was extremely handsome, and his eyes were filled with wisdom and ambition. It was as if nothing could stump him, and he was truly invincible. With his injuries completely healed, Zhao Jiangshan let out a long roar and soared into the sky. About an hour after he flew away, several beams of light descended from the sky, and a few people appeared. They immediately realized that something was wrong. Damn it, that little bastard can't be killed. He has comprehended the Dragonless Heart Sutra. Look, this place was originally very ordinary, but in the blink of an eye, the spiritual chi is overflowing. In addition, so many spiritual objects and rare treasures have been born. This is a sign that his Dragonless Heart Sutra has begun to improve. Last month, this little bastard defiled our sect's junior sister. He went around raping and pillaging, committing all sorts of crimes. We must capture him and consign him to eternal damnation. However, this little bastard's strength is getting stronger and stronger. It's very likely that we won't be a match for him as we chase after him. This little bastard is temperamental. Sometimes he's good, sometimes he's evil. When he's evil, he'll incessantly kill people and burn cities. When he's good, he'll create many spiritual items and distribute them to the people. It can be said that good and evil are all in his thoughts, and it's impossible to grasp. No matter what, I have to kill this brat. The few of them discussed for a while before continuing their pursuit. So it's this guy. After that person left, Gu Churnsha landed here as well. Interesting. Zhao Jiangshan seems to have obtained the resonance of this universe's heavenly Tao. After comprehending the Dragonless Mantra, he's still good and evil at times. This guy doesn't seem to want to submit to me, but rather go against me. However, I still want to see how strong he is. This chapter is not finished, please flip the page. How will he grow, and how will he become a heavenly Tao expert? Swoosh. Gu Churnsha left this place as well. The next moment, he arrived in a city. This city was very prosperous, but it was still in the feudal era. There were horse carriages and sedan chairs on the streets, but everyone was strong and powerful. Clearly, this was an era where martial arts flourished. At this time, Zhao Jiangshan was already in a brothel. That's right, it was a brothel. Within the brothel, Zhao Jiangshan called for a total of 7 or 8 girls to play with in the room. After a while, the 7 or 8 girls were no longer breathing. Next, Zhao Jiangshan's body moved, and he appeared in another place. Dead? Gu Churnsha could clearly see that when Zhao Jiangshan played with these 7 or 8 girls to death, he wasn't plucking them. Rather, he was purely playing with them to obtain pleasure in his heart. This sort of twisted pleasure could even strengthen his spirit force. Gu Churnsha tapped slightly, and these dead girls came back to life. After that, he followed after this Zhao Jiangshan. With every breath that passed, Zhao Jiangshan's strength would grow stronger. Awesome! Zhao Jiangshan arrived in the courtyard of another wealthy family in this city. He stretched his back. Every time I play with women to death, I feel extremely comfortable. Actually, the more I rape and kill those noble girls, the more they feel extreme humiliation. I can feel the hatred and humiliation in their hearts, as well as the despair they feel, the fear they feel, and the change in their mental state of begging for mercy. This will greatly satisfy my spirit. On the contrary, it will stimulate the growth of my cultivation base. Zhao Jiangshan, you're actually doing evil here again. Swish. Gu Chensha landed. Seems like I have to completely capture you before I can avoid this calamity. Who are you? Zhao Jiangshan looked at Gu Chensha. He didn't recognize him, but he didn't care. He continued in a frivolous manner, from your attire, you should be someone from the Justice League. Right now, people from both the righteous and evil sides want to kill me. Actually, it doesn't matter. This universe will be mine sooner or later. The entire world will be mine as well. Everything will be mine. Righteous and evil are in my heart, and I can freely switch between them. Since you're here to capture me, you have to pay the corresponding price. Swish. All of a sudden, Zhao Jiangshan made his move. When he made his move, a beam of cold light reached Gu Chencha's throat. After that, it exploded, turning into a sky full of cold stars. Even Gu Chencha's primordial spirit was enveloped, not giving him any chance to escape. This is my original move, Falling Chilling Star. Enjoy it. Zhao Jiangshan laughed out loud. Of course, if you submit to me, I can let you live. Gu Chensha waved his hand and the cold lights were all dissipated. Then, he grabbed Zhao Jiangshan. His body flickered slightly, and he left the city, arriving in a desert. Zhao Jiangshan struggled in his hand, but he couldn't escape at all. You? Who are you exactly? You're actually so strong. Are you an ancestor? Zhao Jiangshan's eyes were extremely cold, but he wasn't afraid. He just felt that he had been captured, and he was extremely unwilling. Even if you are an ancestor, I will not let you go. This chapter is not finished, please continue to the next page. I'm not as good as you, but in the future, I will definitely make you beg for death. You are sometimes righteous, sometimes evil. Sometimes you do good deeds and sometimes you commit evil deed. I want to change you. This is a desert, desolate and uninhabited. There are almost no living things that can survive here. I'll let you transform this desert. Gu Chensha laughed. Come, activate your spirit force and transform it. How about it? Why must I listen to you? I can do whatever I want. Zhao Jiangshan howled. However, Gu Chensha basically didn't care about what Zhao Jiangshan said. He activated his energy, and a moment later, Zhao Jiangshan's spirit force started to radiate outwards. Gradually, greenery appeared in the desert. Plants started to grow, and spring water appeared. All sorts of animals and spiritual chi appeared. The spiritual chi once again spread out, transforming the entire desert. Who on earth are you? If I know who you are, I'll definitely kill you. Zhao Jiangshan's voice grew colder and colder. As he began to transform the desert, he could only transform an area of several dozen kilometers in the blink of an eye. But after a day and a night, the area he transformed had expanded by 10 times. With a thought, his power surged out, transforming an area of several hundred kilometers. Half a month passed. Zhao Jiangshan was held in Gu Chencha's hand. Every day, he would constantly emit his spirit force to transform this desert. In the end, with a single thought, the entire desert that spanned millions and millions of miles became an oasis. All sorts of treasures were born in these oases. Spirit force. So this is how it works. Spirit force is truly endless, but how much can each person use? Moreover, it's restricted by the laws of the world. At this moment, Zhao Jiangshan seemed to have comprehended something. The spirit force in my body is like a boundless ocean, and my cultivation base and realm are the water pipes that connect to this ocean. The size of the water pipes determines the size of my cultivation base. Therefore, there's no need for us to strengthen our source. We only need to expand the water pipe. And the transformation of the world itself is a technique to expand the water pipe. All of a sudden, Zhao Jiangshan's body trembled. Waves of energy gushed out and actually formed a resonance with the source heavenly Tao energy of the entire universe. Rumble! He actually broke free from Gu Chencha's grasp. His body soared up and transformed as a cruel smile appeared on his face. Bastard, you didn't expect this, right? Not only am I not injured at all, but my cultivation base is also growing stronger and stronger. You actually dared to imprison me? I don't care who you are, I'm going to kill you completely. As expected, this person is a combination of good and evil. He received the changes from the fusion of the universe. Only by doing so would he be able to obtain the resonance of heavenly Tao energy. During these days, Gu Chensha was actually catalyzing Zhao Jiangshan. At the same time, he was analyzing Zhao Jiangshan's mental state, as well as the entire universe. This universe was formed from the fusion of the righteous universe and the evil universe. Neither side could win against the other, and in the end, it became a universe where good was evil and evil was good. As this universe brewed, a person like Zhao Jiangshan was born. This universe has already given birth to some kind of instinct. Under the stimulation of my dragonless mental cultivation art, this universe is already extremely huge and can produce true heavenly Daos. The instincts of heavenly Daos are gathered and projected onto Zhao Jiangshan's body. It's a little miraculous. It seems like this will increase my experience in creating heavenly Daos. Chapter 10:19. Zhao Jiangshan was extremely dangerous and difficult to control, but Gu Chensha didn't plan on killing him. This person was also a test subject. If this person could successfully advance to the heavenly Tao realm, that would mean that he could create heavenly Daos, and then he could mass-produce them. One by one, heavenly Daos would be born, and the world would expand once again. The expansion of the entire world meant that Gu Chensha would have more room for improvement. Gu Chensha's thoughts and realm were not something ordinary people could compare to. Many people couldn't understand his thought. He just wanted to keep expanding the world so that he could improve. It wasn't that he wasn't strong, but the world was too weak. It was like a whale in a fish tank. If it wanted to grow, it had to keep expanding. The current Gu Chensha was too big for the human world, and the world couldn't contain him. If this world could give birth to more heavenly Tao experts who cultivated the dragonless mental cultivation method, they would be able to diligently expand the world, and that would open up more space for Gu Dusha to improve his refinement. So, Gu Chensha definitely wouldn't kill him just because he wasn't easy to control. Of course, Zhao Jiangshan was still a bit short of reaching the heavenly Tao realm. Rumble! Zhao Jiangshan's strength kept rising, and it seemed like he was going to break free from Gu Chensha's control. Gu Chensha just smiled, and his body disappeared, leaving Zhao Jiangshan with no place to vent his anger. Zhao Jiangshan roared again and again, "Who the hell are you? How dare you tease me like this? It doesn't matter if you have good intentions or bad intentions, I will kill you. I, Zhao Jiangshan, will never let anyone tease me, even if it's to help me." As he spoke, Zhao Jiangshan also disappeared. At this time, at the highest peak of the universe, there was a meeting. The meeting was held in a palace hall. This palace floated in space and time, and was always at the highest peak of the universe. There were dozens of seats, and many ancestors sat on them. These ancestors were divided into two sides, good and evil. On the left sat the Confucianism ancestor, ancestor of justice, and others, while on the right sat the ancestor of evil, evil ancestor, and others. Both sides were hostile, and it seemed like a fight would break out at any moment, but they couldn't, as if they were afraid of something. Everyone, we are now Yonko's subjects, and we control the yin and yang sides of the universe. Now, the universe of good and evil are fusing together, and this has led to countless battles. But this fusion clearly has its own benefit. Look at the universe's essence, and we are all benefiting from it. All of a sudden, the evil ancestor spoke. However, this isn't the reason why we're holding this meeting today. Instead, we're discussing the recent changes in the origin power of the universe. Evil ancestor, I didn't think you'd see through it. The ancestor of justice looked at the evil ancestor, and instinctively loathed him. He wanted to destroy the evil ancestor, and the other ancestors of negative energy. But the imperial court didn't allow them to fight, so they could only endure. But while they didn't fight, their subordinates did, and the fight was getting more and more intense. The power of the heavenly Tao is changing. The evil ancestor said, "There are 72 ancestors here. We are all in the heavenly realm, and some of us have reached the 8th level of the undying realm. But we just can't reach the heavenly Tao realm. We created our own universes, and kept brewing, until the entire universe was filled with the power of the heavenly Tao. We wanted to absorb it and reach the heavenly Tao realm. Especially after our universes fused, the power of the heavenly Tao became even more intense, and expanded many times. But this also caused us to be unable to control the power of the heavenly Tao, and we could only let it grow. Now, I heard from the imperial court that the first heavenly Tao realm expert might be born from our universe. What do you think? There's such a thing?" The Confucianism ancestor, ancestor of justice, and the others exchanged glances. "Then have you calculated who the power of the heavenly Tao will favor? This universe is no longer something we can control." The evil ancestor shook his head. "That's why I contacted you for this meeting. Only by working together can we calculate who the power of the heavenly Tao will favor, and what kind of heavenly Tao realm expert will be born in our universe." Apparently, this news has already spread to other universes. For example, the universes formed by the magic ancestor, hero ancestor, giant ancestor, spirit ancestor, and essence ancestor have already found out. They have already infiltrated our universe, looking for the person favored by the heavenly Tao, and want to devour him to reach the heavenly Tao realm. So we have to be one step ahead. We painstakingly created this universe, and then brewed the power of the heavenly Tao, but it will favor a kid. The Confucianism ancestor also felt it was unfair. Others want to take it away? That's just wishful thinking. Since that's the case, let's work together to calculate who that kid is. But will the imperial court care about this? The ancestor of justice was a bit worried. I heard that the imperial court's Gu Chunsha wants to produce a heavenly Tao realm expert. If we kill this kid, will it make him unhappy? And punish us? There's nothing we can do about this, the evil ancestor said. The evil ancestor said, "This must be done, or everything we've done will be destroyed. Can you tolerate the essence of the universe we've painstakingly created for so many years, the power of the heavenly Tao, falling into the hands of others? Fine, let's work together." The Confucianism ancestor thought for a moment. Gu Chunsha has great power, but if he wants us to do something for him, to promote the Dragonless Heart Sutra, he should at least give us some benefits. If he doesn't give us any benefits, and even wants to cut off our roots, how can we tolerate that? What do you all think? The evil ancestor said. Then let's work together. All of the ancestors agreed. Rumble. The 72 ancestors of the righteous and evil paths joined forces, causing the essence of the universe to tremble. Everything in the universe, including space-time, fate, karma, predestination, and everything else, began to move. In the end, the image of a person appeared, who struggled violently, as if he didn't want to show himself to the ancestors. But then, he did. It was a young man, Zhao Jiangshan. That's him. Lock onto him and capture him. We can't let him get the essence of the universe. The ancestors of the righteous and evil paths reached an agreement. In that moment, the universe began to seethe with activity. Meanwhile, outside of the universe, Zhang Ziren, Emperor of Heaven, and Gu Huasha were watching the transformations taking place in the universe. I never would have guessed that the righteous and evil universes would expand so much, Zhang Ziren said. The Heaven Dao power is even stronger than before, and experts of the Heaven Dao level are born. What do you think, Emperor of Heaven? Once that Heaven Dao expert is born, he'll surpass us. All of our good fortune and years of cultivation can't even match up to a newcomer. What are you going to do about it? I can't accept it, Emperor of Heaven said. But even if you can't accept it, there's nothing we can do about it. We have to figure out a way to reach the Heaven Dao level. I can sense that more and more people will reach that level in the future. Don't tell me you haven't noticed that there are more and more people who have mastered the dragonless mental magic. Although they aren't very strong, they can already use it to create worlds. You see, the reason why the righteous and evil universes are so huge and are still expanding is because more and more people have mastered the dragonless mental magic. That's true, the Emperor of Heaven said. Number 4 said, I finally understand. To advance to the heavenly law realm, one must use the dragonless mental art to create an entire world and expand it. Only then will you have a chance to rise up. Then how do we do it? Zhang Ziren said. Actually, the ancestors who created the righteous and evil universes are out of control. Not only are they not benefiting from it, but they're also giving birth to a powerful entity. Of course, we can fish in troubled waters. If we devour that entity, we'll be able to reach the Heaven Dao level. If we copy them and create worlds, we won't be benefiting ourselves, but others. Many of the ancestors have their eyes on this universe, the Emperor of Heaven said. The way I see it, that Zhao Jiangshan won't be able to escape. No matter what happens, we have to capture that Zhao Jiangshan. But we also have to be on our guard. We can't accept it. If one Heaven Dao expert after another appears, we'll be reduced to nobodies. That's terrifying. That's true. In the past, the three celestials, Yuan Gu, Do Xing, and Subhutuo, were extremely powerful in the heaven realm. All of the emperors of the Central Divine Prefecture treated them with the utmost respect. But now, they haven't improved at all. They can't reach the ancestor level at all. They just barely manage to become heaven realm experts, but that's an extremely weak heaven realm that's constantly being bullied by others. If we end up like that, we'll probably be in a worse state than death. The fourth suddenly had a bad idea. We have to reach the Heaven Dao level first, Zhang Ziren said. I'm the human ancestor, and the human realm is mine. I wonder if Gu Qinsha will interfere this time? The Emperor of Heaven said. He'll definitely interfere. Based on my understanding of his personality, he's probably already making arrangements. Although a Heavenly Dao expert isn't much to him, no one else has reached the Heavenly Dao realm apart from him. That's why this is the perfect test subject for him. He probably won't let anyone destroy it so easily. The fourth chuckled. Let's just wait and see. He'll definitely make a mistake. I refuse to believe that he'll be able to stand at the peak forever. Chapter 1020. Forced abdication by the imperial court. Zhao Jiangshan really did run into all sorts of tribulations. If I hadn't tempered him for so many days, he wouldn't have been able to hold on. And now he's fighting back. Gu Qinsha was currently standing outside the universe, looking at the complicated and chaotic situation. He was quite interested, because a Heavenly Dao level expert was about to be born. That was Zhao Jiangshan. After the righteous and evil universes fused, the aura of heavenly Tao energy spread to all sorts of universes. Countless experts were like flies that had encountered fresh blood. They all flocked to this universe, wanting to find Zhao Jiangshan and devour him so that they could obtain heavenly Tao realm cultivation. The universe became very chaotic. Countless sects, countries, powers, and space-time races were plotting to gain benefit. A mirror appeared in front of Gu Chensha, and within it was an image of Zhao Jiangshan. Time passed very quickly in the righteous and corrupt universes. A day in the human world was 100 years in the righteous and corrupt universes. For 1,000 years, Zhao Jiangshan hid in the righteous and demonic universes, killing those who were spying on him. He also had many fortuitous encounters and gained enlightenment, and his strength grew stronger and stronger. Gradually, he began to fuse with the heavenly Tao energy of the righteous and demonic universes, and a heaven-shaking, earth-toppling transformation occurred. In 100 years, he became an ancestor, competing with other ancestors. He was very good at hiding, and no one could find him. He could buy time and win strategic opportunities. In addition, his dragonless heart art grew stronger and stronger. His spirit force and heavenly Tao energy fused together, causing the righteous and evil universes to expand once more. Also, the number of people in the righteous and evil universes who knew the dragonless heart art kept increasing. As the universe expanded, the heavenly Tao energy grew even stronger. Of course, Gu Chensha could see all of this very clearly. The righteous and corrupt universes were actually a minor universe in the human world. There were many other universes like this. Emperor of Heaven, the Fourth, and Zhang Ziren have all entered the righteous and evil universes. How could Gu Chensha not realize what was going on? His body flickered as he left, allowing things to develop as they were. He returned to the imperial palace, where he called for another meeting. Under Gu Chensha's summons, the Emperor of Heaven, the Fourth, and Zhang Ziren had no choice but to return from the righteous and evil universes. It wasn't that they were willing, but that they had no choice. They knew that if they disobeyed Gu Chensha's orders, their fates would be extremely miserable. It wasn't just the three of them. Many ancestors from the righteous and evil universes had also been summoned to the imperial court. In a short time, hundreds and thousands of ancestors appeared in the imperial court. Now, Gu Chensha's prestige had spread throughout the human world. Almost no ancestor in the countless universes dared to disobey his orders. Of course, there were also many newly promoted ancestors who didn't listen to Gu Chensha's orders. In the imperial court, although these ancestors listened to Gu Chensha on the surface, they were secretly forming cliques for personal gain. They even used the power of the imperial court to annex others. On the surface, the entire imperial court had begun to unify the countless spacetimes of the human world. However, in reality, the hearts of the people weren't very united. There were many factions in the imperial court, each with their own ideas. However, they didn't dare to brazenly disobey Gu Chensha's orders. Therefore, the dragonless cultivation method continued to be promoted vigorously. As a result, more and more people in the human world cultivated the dragonless cultivation method and began to contribute to the universe. Everyone. Gu Chensha sat on the supreme throne and spoke to the people below. This time, I have gathered all of you for a meeting. There are some matters regarding the righteous and evil universes. Confucianism ancestor, tell me, what is the current situation of the righteous and evil universes? Confucianism ancestor hurriedly came forward and reported, the situation of the righteous and evil universes is very good. Many of them have cultivated the dragonless cultivation method. Although their strength is still weak, they can provide help to the origin of the universe. They don't need to absorb the energy of the universe. Other than that, is there anything else? Gu Chensha asked. Another thing is that the killings between the sects in the righteous and evil universes are too serious. The ancestors of the evil alliance often instigate conflicts between the sects, causing the righteous and evil universes to be unable to stabilize. I hope that your Majesty can suppress the ancestors of the evil alliance to prevent the universe from being destroyed and the lives of the people. Confucianism ancestor spoke with a strong sense of righteousness. Your Majesty. At this time, the evil ancestor appeared. He knelt down and kowtowed repeatedly. Your Majesty, please do not listen to the nonsense of the Confucianism ancestor. The Confucianism ancestor hates Your Majesty to the core, but under Your Majesty's power, he has no choice but to submit. Anyone with a discerning eye can see this. Therefore, I hope that Your Majesty will severely punish the Confucianism ancestor. As a warning to others. Your Majesty. The ancestor of evil also knelt down. While speaking, the Confucianism ancestor, you did not kneel to Your Majesty. Instead, you stood stiffly in the court. What a scandal! Confucianism ancestor, kneel immediately, or I will punish you for the crime of disrespect. You evil people, you have a glib tongue here. The ancestor of justice scolded. His Majesty's dragonless cultivation technique stresses that everyone is equal, that everyone is free, and that they can do as they please. You dare to spout nonsense here? I think you are the ones who are disrespectful. You have destroyed the essence of the dragonless cultivation technique, and are trying to frame His Majesty. Ancestor of justice, who do you think you are? Some time ago, your righteous sect massacred the sects under my command in the name of slaying demons and devils. They slaughtered everyone, regardless of whether they were men or women, old or young. Even newborn babies were not spared. Especially the young sect leader of the Silent Demon sect, who had mastered the dragonless cultivation technique and was able to activate the great power within his heart. You were afraid that our forces would grow stronger, so you found an excuse to kill him. This is clearly breaking His Majesty's laws. After mastering the dragonless cultivation technique, one can support the universe. But in order to suppress our strength, you killed someone who had mastered the dragonless cultivation technique. Your Majesty, this matter cannot be tolerated. At this time, the evil ancestor also knelt down. In the imperial court, the other ancestral patriarchs watched the battle between the two factions coldly. Some were gloating, some were whispering, and some were secretly observing to see how Gu Churnsha would handle the situation. The situation in the court became incomparably complicated. Gu Churnsha looked at the ruckus in the court below. He was very clear that if he unified the human world, all the ancestors would have to submit to him. However, these ancestors were only forced by force. It was impossible for them to sincerely submit to him. Of course, it was the same for the emperors of the past dynasties. Basically, none of the ministers in the court were loyal. Demon ancestor, what do you think? You came from the celestial Middle Earth. Gu Churnsha asked, we have a certain friendship. What do you think about the matter of the righteous and evil universes? The demon ancestor was God Maha, and also the former lord of the devil world. He was originally an enemy of Gu Churnsha, but now he was extremely afraid. This was because Fa Wuxian and the great spirit god had become two dogs. In order to avoid such an ending, he had no choice but to submit. Your Majesty, I am the demon ancestor. I used to manage hell in the heaven realm. I am known as the king of hell. I have a lot of knowledge about the demonic path. God Maha said, in the world there are righteous and evil, there are demons and there are Daos. They fight and kill each other, forming karma and fate. It is also beneficial to the development of the universe. However, the ancestor of justice and the others claim to be righteous, but they kill people who have cultivated the Dragonless Heart Sutra. This is not in line with the strategy Your Majesty has set. Your Majesty, the demon ancestor is talking nonsense. The ancestor of personal loyalty said, in this world, Evil cannot win over good. Now that your majesty has cleansed the roots, you should uphold the righteous path of heaven and earth, and destroy evil. I know your majesty's history. In the celestial Middle Earth, when your majesty was a prince, you constantly killed evil and swore to destroy all demons. I hope your majesty will not forget your original intention. Gu Chunsha ignored the ancestor of personal loyalty's words. Instead, he asked the spell ancestor, tell me how to deal with the righteous and evil universes. The spell ancestor immediately went forward and reported, Your Majesty, the ancestor of personal loyalty dares to use words against your majesty. This is a crime worthy of death. Your majesty's actions are the absolute truth. The ancestor of personal loyalty dares to say what he wants your majesty to do? Does that mean he thinks of himself as the teacher of the emperor? Does he think your majesty is the emperor of the human world? Is there a mistake? In fact, your majesty's current identity is already supreme. You can control everything and create the heavenly path. What else do you need him to do? This is the foundation, and it cannot be shaken. Your majesty has a loyal subordinate called the little godson. He used to be a eunuch, but he hasn't been promoted to ancestor yet. Your majesty can punish the ancestor of personal loyalty by stripping him of his status as an ancestor. At the same time, you can make the little godson the title of ancestor of personal loyalty. Of course, all of this needs to be decided by your majesty. Your humble servant can't guess your majesty's thoughts. The Dharma Saint's spell ancestor's words were an attack on the Justice League. Spell ancestor, what do you mean by that? How can you still uphold the law? In this world, there is nothing that is always right. Even your majesty has to keep up with the times and keep improving. This is the right path. We are loyal ministers who assist your majesty in accomplishing great things. Your majesty, I hope you can demote the spell ancestor. At this time, the Justice League's ancestors all roared. The Justice League had a total of 36 ancestors. As soon as they roared, many other ancestors supported them. Gu Chunsha looked around and saw that there were hundreds of ancestors supporting the Justice League. They seemed to have formed a party. Your Majesty, please uphold the righteous path and kill the demons. Otherwise, the world will be in chaos, and I'm afraid your Majesty's ideals will be ruined. In short, if your Majesty doesn't punish the demons today, we will continue to admonish your Majesty. This is advice that offends the ear, and your Majesty has no choice but to listen. The Confucianism ancestor roared. At this time, many of the ancestors were also echoing in agreement. The other ancestors could also tell that the ancestors of the Righteous Alliance were trying to force the emperor to abdicate, which made sense. Many ancestors decided to wait and see how Gu Chunsha would deal with the situation. East ancestor, what do you think? How do you think Gu Chunsha will deal with this? Another small group was whispering. Remember the mobile website, M. Chapter 10:21. The parent of all things, let's not take part in this. It's clearly the ancestors of the Righteous Alliance trying to force the imperial court to abdicate. Perhaps the Evil Alliance and the Righteous Alliance have already agreed on this. They seem to be at loggerheads on the surface, but it's all an act. Let's see how Gu Chunsha deals with this. Ancestor East was an old man. This group was divided into Ancestor East, Ancestor West, Ancestor South, Ancestor North, and Ancestor Middle. The 5 ancestors gathered together and created a small universe. Of course, it was far from the Justice League and the Evil Alliance's universe. Their power was very small, so they didn't have the right to speak in the imperial court. On the surface, Gu Chunsha has unified the human world. Of course, there are people who oppose him, but they can't do anything. Ancestor East had a pondering look on his face. It's just that the imperial court is too chaotic. It's like a messy market. Everyone has ulterior motives. Even the most chaotic dynasty in the mortal world would be better than this one. But Gu Chensha doesn't seem to care. What is he thinking? Maybe he thinks he has absolute control, so he's not afraid. Look, he turned the two ancestors into dogs and the others into mounts. Even the Nihility ancestor and the Emperor of Heaven were forced to submit to him. Ancestor Nan said, but there's something else. Look, the 36 ancestors of the Righteous Alliance and the 36 ancestors of the Evil Alliance make a total of 72 ancestors. Aside from that, there are clearly other organizations that have banded together. There are 200 to 300 ancestors. I refuse to believe that he can suppress all of them by himself. Not even the heavenly Tao realm. We have to be careful, Ancestor North said. Once there's chaos, we'll leave. Otherwise, we'll be caught in the crossfire. No, let's join forces and seize this opportunity. If chaos truly erupts, we can fish in troubled waters and take advantage of the situation. We can kill a few ancestors and integrate them into our cosmos, allowing our cosmos to expand once more. Who knows, we might even be able to produce heavenly Tao energy. Also, we can bitterly cultivate the dragonless heart art and comprehend the secret arts, using our own spirit force to create a new cosmos. The middle patriarch was the youngest, and he looked like a teenager. However, he was the strongest, and the 4 patriarchs of the East, West, South, and North all obeyed his orders. Okay, in that case, let's just wait and see. Not only was this small group discussing, but the other groups were also watching the show. There were a total of 3,000 to 5,000 Ancestor Realm experts gathered in the court. Now that the Righteous Alliance and the Evil Alliance were at loggerheads, many smaller groups were eager to join in. Many Ancestor Realm experts believed that Gu Chensha would not be able to control the situation if so many Ancestor Realm experts fell into disarray. Damn, does this Gu Chensha really think he's invincible? I want to see how he's going to deal with this. I heard that he has many treasures and even has heavenly Tao power. If there's chaos, I'll do something big. Some of the ancestors had such thoughts in their hearts. Gu Chensha was high and mighty. With a single glance, he could see that the entire court was in chaos. It was as though a fight could break out at any moment. As for the Emperor of Heaven, the Fourth, and Zhang Ziren, they didn't seem to care. They were just watching the show. Most probably, the 3 of them were secretly adding fuel to the fire. Enough! Gu Chensha's voice grew louder. Rumble! All of a sudden, space-time reversed, and all of the ancestral patriarchs in the court, no matter how high their cultivation bases were, felt isolated. They were in a powerful, independent universe, not in the same space-time as anyone else. No matter how they changed, they couldn't get close to anyone. Furthermore, all of the ancestors were in different timelines. Now, they couldn't do anything. In fact, they couldn't even flee. They were trapped in an independent universe. As Gu Chensha spoke, he created 3,000 to 5,000 universes. What's going on? Why is it like this? Why am I trapped in this universe? Some of the ancestors were terrified, but there was nothing they could do. Many of the ancestors realized that this was Gu Chensha's doing. I vastly underestimated Gu Chensha's power. The faces of the 5 ancestors were pale. What a ruckus! What a scandal! Gu Chensha said, looking down at the silent ancestor experts. You people from the Justice League and the League of Evil keep fighting each other. You're up to no good. I've called a meeting in the court and you're spouting nonsense. You're clearly looking down on me. Ancestor of personal loyalty, you're the first to start a fight, and that's an unforgivable crime. Evil ancestor, ancestor of evil, you too are trying to throw the court into chaos. You're trying to force me to abdicate, aren't you? That's not what I meant, Your Majesty. Ancestor of personal loyalty shouted. He drew on his cultivation base to try to free himself, but to no avail. Confucianism ancestor, ancestor of justice, Hurry up! An ancestor of evil, evil ancestor, what are you waiting for? Are you really going to wait for Gu Chunxia to catch us all in one fell swoop? You really do have the ambition of a wolf. Gu Chunxia waved his hand, and a beam of light appeared above Ancestor of Personal Loyalty's head. In an instant, countless powers gathered above Ancestor of Personal Loyalty's head, and the halo stripped him of his cultivation base and everything. Ancestor of Personal Loyalty became an ordinary person. Little godson, Gu Chunxia ordered. Little godson appeared, and he accepted the halo. Suddenly, little godson became ancestor of personal loyalty, and ancestor of personal loyalty became an ordinary person. Ancestor of evil, evil ancestor, you formed the League of Evil, but you didn't do anything good. You even plotted to overthrow me. You've committed a heinous crime. Gu Chunxia attacked again, and amid screams, Ancestor of evil and evil ancestor became a wolf and a wolf respectively. Then, the two combined and became one. It was two heads and a body that looked like a wolf and a wolf. Ancestor of personal loyalty attacked again. Two evil ancestors, you colluded with each other and stirred up chaos in the court. I will turn you into a wolf, and you will become the mounts of ancestor of personal loyalty. You will never be free. Gu Chenchia's voice was filled with murderous intent. Let me tell you, I don't care if you have other thoughts in the future, but if you cross the line, I won't be polite. As he spoke, everyone released their shackles. Now, the people from the Justice League and the League of Evil didn't know what to say. Confucianism Ancestor was furious, but he couldn't do anything. The Justice League had lost Ancestor of Personal Loyalty, and the League of Evil had lost Ancestor of Evil and Evil Ancestor. It seemed like the League of Evil had suffered more losses, but Confucianism Ancestor wasn't happy at all. He wanted to kill Gu Chunxia, but he didn't dare. Gu Chunxia had just casually created many universes and imprisoned them in space. They couldn't use any power, and they could only be trampled on. This situation was like there was no way out. There was no way out and no way out. Heaven and earth didn't respond. His Majesty is just and has grasped the absolute truth. We should all learn from His Majesty. Spell Ancestor stood up and began to sing. Spell Ancestor, you can leave as well. Gu Chunxia waved his hand. Yes. Spell Ancestor was embarrassed, so he quickly left and didn't say anything else. Everyone, I was just giving you a small punishment. You should focus on comprehending the Dragonless Mantra, and at the same time, lead your subordinates to comprehend it. Whoever can make more people comprehend the Dragonless Mantra will have higher achievement. Gu Chunxia said, in the future, those who cultivate the Dragonless Mantra will definitely reach the way of Heaven Realm. And next, the first person to reach the way of Heaven Realm will be born. Then, he waved his hands, and a mirror appeared above the court. This mirror showed the image of Zhao Jiangshan from the righteous and evil universes. Zhao Jiangshan's power had reached the Ancestor Realm. He hid in the most crucial and secret node of the righteous and evil universes. It was also the most mysterious node of the righteous and evil universes. Then, he began to activate the Dragonless Mantra. As expected, as he activated the Dragonless Mantra, great spirit power surged out and spread through this node, nourishing the entire universe. In an instant, the source of the righteous and evil universes started to explode, and the entire universe started to strengthen. Then, the countless universes' way of heaven power started to boil. These boiling powers searched for the source, and they started to gather on Zhao Jiangshan's body. The power on Zhao Jiangshan's body gradually turned into way of heaven power. Ha 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 ha! Zhao Jiangshan continued to pour in his spirit power, and a cheerful voice came out from his will. As expected, I used the Dragonless Mantra to activate the universe, giving it more things. The expansion of the universe also caused my output to be even greater. The power of the spirit is limitless, it's just that we have no way to vent it. Guchensha, Guchensha, you're really an amazing person. You discovered this phenomenon and created the dragonless mantra. But you're just a developer. Although you can occupy a great position, people will definitely surpass you. If no one surpasses you, how can the entire universe develop? That's going against the laws, and also against your dragonless mantra. I'll be the first person to surpass you. Rumble. The way of heaven power surged even more. The righteous and evil universes suddenly expanded again. The way of heaven power and Zhao Jiangshan's spirit power combined, causing Zhao Jiangshan to instantly transform into the way of heaven realm. Chapter 10:22. Chapter 10:19. Suppression. The first heavenly Tao level expert has been born, and it's not us. The fourth, Gu Huasha, and the Emperor of Heaven saw everything clearly. In the mirror that Gu Chensha showed, Zhao Jiangshan's every move, including how to use the dragonless heart technique, and then the great spirit power that gushed out, then the creation of the universe, causing many spaces, continents, treasures, fortuitous encounters, and so on in the righteous and evil universes. Then, the heavenly Tao of the righteous and evil universes boiled, intertwining with him. At the last moment, Zhao Jiangshan's body gave birth to a huge amount of power, allowing him to directly cross over to the heaven realm. He also completely pushed the 8th level of the immortal realm to the limit, and the heaven realm in his body shattered, evolving into a higher level of power, which was the heavenly Tao. At this time, Zhao Jiangshan was the heavenly Tao level. The fourth and the Emperor of Heaven's first thought was jealousy. Logically, the fourth was the nihility ancestor, the first ancestor of heaven and earth. His cultivation had long reached the heavens and earth, and he was invincible. And the Emperor of Heaven was the one who controlled all things, created the universe, and was invincible in the immemorial world. The two of them were powerful figures second only to Gu Chensha. It was only natural that they could advance to the heavenly law realm. However, things did not go as they wished. The one who advanced to the heavenly law realm was not them, but a nobody they had never heard of, Zhao Jiangshan. This Zhao Jiangshan did not have an illustrious background, nor did he have many fortuitous encounters, and he did not even have a backer. He relied on himself to cultivate the dragonless heart technique, and slowly cultivated the strongest divine ability, and finally reached his current level. This was the mystery of the dragonless heart technique. From this, it could be seen that whoever cultivated the dragonless heart technique would be able to control the fundamental power of the universe. Rumble. Zhao Jiangshan reached the heavenly Tao level, and he did his best to use the universe to consolidate his cultivation. When everyone saw this scene, heaven-shaking and earth-shattering thoughts appeared in their hearts. This was the first time the many ancestors saw the cultivation of the dragonless heart art. To them, this was the first time they saw the cultivation of the dragonless heart art. To them, this was a benchmark. Now, everyone understood the importance of the dragonless art in creating a universe. The energy within the bodies of many ancestors began to surge. Their cultivation bases began to seep out, seeping into the space of the mortal world, coming into contact with the essence of the mortal world. After that, they poured their spirit force into it, attempting to cultivate it. That's exactly what I want. Keep setting up benchmarks so that people can benefit from it. That way, everyone will have the motivation to create a new world. The world will instantly expand, and I'll have more room to do what I want. Gu Chensha observed the changes in these people. Ha ha ha! Zhao Jiangshan finally consolidated his cultivation and seemed to have become the master of the righteous and evil universes. He let out a furious roar and laughed maniacally as he shot through the air, tearing through layers of the void to reach the imperial court. Rumble! Spatial tempests sprang up in the imperial court, causing many of the ancestors' hearts to tremble. Zhao Jiangshan landed in front of the ancestors and looked up at Gu Chensha. Gu Chensha, I bet you never would have guessed that I would reach the Heaven Dao level. Now that I've reached that level, I know how strong I am. You're on the same level, and we're on the same level. You no longer have the ability to suppress me. Everyone, are you going to be so submissive and cowardly in front of Gu Chensha? Why don't you join me and rebel against Gu Chensha? Zhao Jiangshan, what do you want? Gu Chensha smiled at Zhao Jiangshan. Simple. I want to suppress you. Zhao Jiangshan said, there can't be two Heaven Daos in the world. One has to be fused. As soon as I reached the Heaven Dao level, I knew that I had to suppress you. That's the only way I can advance further. What? You still don't dare to fight Gu Chensha? Confucianism ancestor, ancestor of justice, vicious ancestor, poison ancestor, you are the ancestors of the righteous and evil universes. I am the Heaven Dao of the righteous and evil universes. You have to listen to my orders. Otherwise, I can just use the power of the Heaven Dao to strip you of your power and drive you out of the righteous and evil universes. When the Confucianism ancestor heard Zhao Jiangshan, he wanted to try, but he didn't dare. He wanted Zhao Jiangshan to be the vanguard. Zhao Jiangshan, you were born from the righteous and evil universes, but now you've become the Heaven Dao of the universe. You have to work for the benefit of the righteous and evil universes. At this time, the ancestor of love spoke. His words were vague, but he wanted Zhao Jiangshan to deal with Gu Chensha, and he also wanted Zhao Jiangshan to know his place. Ha ha ha, you're all a bunch of fence-sitters. Are you still afraid? In that case, I'll show you the power of the Heaven Dao. Gu Chensha, you're still sitting in front of me. Do you really think your power is above mine? Come on down. Zhao Jiangshan suddenly grabbed. Rumble. There seemed to be a great universe appearing in his palm, which then wrapped around Gu Chen's sandbag. This great universe rapidly expanded, covering all space-time. Everyone saw the true meaning of the universe. Countless meteors streaked across the void. Countless timelines and fate lines began to recombine and decompose. Karma lines also began to condense and form. This is the power of the Heaven Dao? Too scary. We're not a match for him at all. The difference between the Heaven Dao and Heaven Realms is too big. Many of the ancestors were terrified. The Confucianism ancestor and the others were thinking, this kind of power might really be able to defeat Gu Chensha. He's creating new timelines and karma threads. To think that Zhao Jiangshan would actually possess such strength and mystic skills. Heaven's Dao realm, I must definitely ascend to the Heaven's Dao realm. That is true power. Other than that, all other powers are not worth mentioning. Gu Huasha, it looks like if we don't make a choice, we'll fall behind. The Emperor of Heaven's heart was already in turmoil. Yes, we have to change. The fourth, Gu Huasha, saw Zhao Jiangshan's power, and his heart was deeply moved. He knew that the moment Zhao Jiangshan used the Heaven Dao, he had fallen behind. If he didn't catch up, he would be trampled by the nobodies. Many of the ancestors were shocked by Zhao Jiangshan's Heaven Dao power, and Gu Chensha said one word. Change. When the word left his mouth, the whole universe disappeared. It was like it had never been there. Zhao Jiangshan stood where he was. He kept waving his hands, but he couldn't use any power. It was like he had suddenly become an ordinary person. No. Jiang Ge, what have you done? Zhao Jiangshan roared and activated the heavenly energy in his body again and again. However, the heavenly energy seemed to disappear without a trace in an instant. Heaven Dao power is a good thing, but using it requires a strong heart. Gu Chensha was holding a sphere that looked like the righteous and evil universes. That sphere was all of Zhao Jiangshan's Heaven Dao power. The power was gathered together, and Gu Chensha took it all. It shone with a bright light. When the light shone, it made many of the ancestors drool. Whoever obtained this ball of heavenly energy would be able to immediately ascend to the heavenly Tao realm. Never mind. I'll give it back to you. Gu Chensha waved his hand, and the Heaven Tao power went back into Zhao Jiangshan's body. Zhao Jiangshan roared and exploded again. He attacked Gu Chensha. But Gu Chensha pressed his hand down. Boom! Zhao Jiangshan's body changed. He became a cow. More accurately, he was a monster with a human head and a cow's body. Baiwei, this Heaven Tao class cow, Zhao Jiangshan, is your tool to pull the cart. It's not bad, Gu Chensha said to Lu Baiwei, not to mention that he has reached the heavenly Tao realm. His Dragonless Heart Sutra has also reached a very high level. He can continuously open up new worlds in the void and expand the human world. Not bad at all. In the future, apart from pulling the carriage for you, his task is to open up new worlds everywhere, enrich the human world, and create more fertile world. That's for the best. Lu Baiwei looked at Zhao Jiangshan, who had turned into a cow. This cow is at the Heaven Tao level. I'm afraid I can't control him. If he attacks me, it'll be terrifying. Don't worry. He won't be able to attack you, Gu Chensha said. I've already sealed Zhao Jiangshan's body. His life and death are in your hands. If you want him to kneel now, he won't be able to resist. Is that so? Then I'll give it a try. Lu Baiwei said, kneel. Immediately, Zhao Jiangshan knelt, but he looked very unwilling. He shouted hysterically, Gu Chensha, what have you done to me? I'm at the Heaven Tao level. The Heaven Tao. I'm the Heaven Tao. I'm the Heaven Tao. I'm in charge of all karma, all order, all life and death, all space-time, and all fate. Why am I so weak? Why? I can't accept this. The Heaven Tao is supreme. How could this happen? Kneel. Lu Baiwei gave another order, and instantly, Zhao Jiangshan prostrated himself on the ground, his buttocks sticking up high. A mighty, invincible character at the Heaven Tao level was like a pet, unable to resist at all. Very good. Gu Chensha nodded. Zhao Jiangshan, once you reached the Heaven Tao level, you started showing off in front of me, but you forgot one thing. The reason you reached the Heaven Tao level was because of my help. However, I won't take away your cultivation base. As long as you completely change your mind, I'll be able to restore you. Gu Chensha, that's impossible. I won't let you have your way. At that moment, Zhao Jiangshan was just like Fa Wuxian. As long as you don't kill me, I'll keep watching. I'll watch you get defeated. I've reached the Heaven Tao level now, and my lifespan is endless. I'll keep waiting for you. I can't defeat you, but there'll be a day when someone can. In the eternal years, you'll end up like me. It's just a matter of time. Remember the mobile version, You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.